Hi there, friends. Thanks for tuning in to another Harry. Get ready for an incredible journey as we present what if Harry escaped to Nevermore Academy and Wednesday made him her only alliance. If you find our stories entertaining, a simple like and subscribe would mean everything to us. Your support motivates us to create more. Here we go. Chapter 1, The Boy Who Vanished. The autumn air crackled with magic at Nevermore Academy, where students in black uniforms gathered around a massive bonfire for the annual Founders' Day ritual. Blue flames licked skyward, casting eerie shadows across young faces painted with intricate symbols. At the edge of the circle, Wednesday Addams stood apart from her peers, black eyes reflecting the dancing fire with clinical detachment. "Isn't this exciting?" Enid squealed beside her, the werewolf's rainbow-colored hair vibrating with enthusiasm. "Principal Weems says this year's ceremony will connect us to the original founding members." Wednesday didn't bother looking at her roommate. "Thrilling. Another pointless tradition where we pretend to commune with spirits who, if they actually appeared, would be horrified at what's become of their legacy." Enid rolled her eyes. "Come on, Wednesday. Even you have to admit, the air above the bonfire suddenly rippled like disturbed water." Students fell silent as Principal Weems, who had been leading the chant, stopped mid-sentence. The blue flames surged upward, swirling into a vortex that pulled at the night sky. "Is this part of the ceremony?" someone whispered. Wednesday narrowed her eyes. No, this was something else entirely. The magical signature felt wrong, foreign, chaotic, desperate. She stepped forward while others backed away. A thunderous crack split the air. The vortex collapsed in on itself, and a body tumbled through the opening, crashing directly into the bonfire. Blue flames exploded outward, knocking several students off their feet. Wednesday braced against the shockwave, eyes locked on the figure that lay sprawled and smoking in the embers. A boy. Teenage. Skinny. Messy black hair. And utterly unconscious. Principal Weems recovered first, rushing forward with faculty members to extract the intruder from the fire, which, strangely, didn't seem to be burning him. "Everyone back to your dormitories," she commanded. "The ceremony is postponed." Students scattered in a buzz of excited whispers, but Wednesday remained rooted in place, cataloging details. The boy's strange clothing, some kind of school uniform, but not Nevermore's. A thin wooden stick clutched in his right hand. And most intriguing, a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead that seemed to pulse with its own energy. "That means you too, Miss Addams," Professor Thornhill said, appearing at her elbow. "I believe I can be of assistance," Wednesday replied flatly. "I've documented 17 similar paranormal entrance phenomena in the Academy's history." "Be that as it may," Principal Weems cut in. "Actually, let her stay. Wednesday, help us get him to the infirmary." Wednesday moved forward, noting how the boy's body seemed to radiate an unfamiliar magic. Not werewolf, not vampire, not gorgon, nothing she recognized from Nevermore's usual categories of outcasts. Something else entirely. As they lifted him onto a stretcher, his eyes suddenly flew open, bright green, disoriented, and filled with panic. He jackknifed it upward, the wooden stick in his hand whipping through the air. "Protego," he shouted hoarsely, and an invisible force threw everyone backwards several feet. Wednesday, the only one who'd anticipated a defensive reaction, had stepped aside at the last moment. She watched with clinical interest as a transparent dome of energy surrounded the boy. "Fascinating," she murmured. The boy staggered to his feet, swaying dangerously. His eyes darted around wildly, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings. "Where am I? Who are you people?" Principal Weems approached cautiously. "You're at Nevermore Academy, young man. We mean you no harm. You appeared in our ceremonial fire." "Nevermore." The boy's face contorted in confusion. His accent was distinctly British. "No, that's not." He stopped, wincing as if in pain, then looked down at his hand where blood dripped from a deep cut. "It worked," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. It actually worked. The protective dome flickered and vanished as his knees buckled. Wednesday moved forward, catching his arm before he collapsed completely. His skin felt abnormally hot, like he was burning from within. "What's your name?" she demanded. His green eyes locked with hers for a moment, filled with a whirlwind of emotions: fear, determination, exhaustion. Just before consciousness slipped away again, he answered, "Harry." Harry Potter. Harry dreamed of fire and broken glass. Screams echoing through stone corridors. Accusations flying like curses: traitor, murderer, dark wizard. Ron's face, twisted with betrayal. "We trusted you, Harry." Hermione, tears streaming down her face. "How could you do this?" And Dumbledore, looking at him with such profound disappointment that it cut deeper than any curse could have. "Harry, surrender your wand. The evidence is undeniable." But it wasn't him. He hadn't done it. Someone had set him up, perfectly, meticulously. The bodies in the Great Hall, the residue of dark magic matching his magical signature, someone had orchestrated it all. They were coming for him: Aurors, teachers, even his friends. Backed into a corner in the astronomy tower, desperation had driven him to attempt the impossible. Ancient magic, forbidden dimensional theory from a book in the restricted section. A ritual requiring blood sacrifice and unthinkable risk. When there is no path forward or back, tear sideways through reality itself. Harry jolted awake, gasping. Unfamiliar ceiling. Strange bed. His hand instinctively reached for his wand, but it wasn't there. Looking for this? He turned sharply toward the voice. A girl sat beside his bed, examining his holly wand with detached curiosity. She was pale, with long black hair arranged in tight braids, wearing a black uniform that reminded him vaguely of Hogwarts, yet distinctly different. Her expression remained completely neutral as she studied him. "Give that back," Harry demanded, fighting to sit up despite the wave of dizziness that hit him. "Curious object," she said, ignoring his outstretched hand. 11 inches, uncommon wood, and contains some kind of organic core material. A focus device for your abilities, I presume. Harry stared at her. "How did you?" "Observation," she stated flatly. "Your latent energy signature changes when you hold it. I've been monitoring your magical output for the past 6 hours." She finally extended the wand toward him, handle first. "You're not from this dimension, are you, Harry Potter?" Harry snatched the wand back, immediately feeling more secure with it in his grasp. He considered denying it, but something in the girl's unwavering gaze suggested she'd already assembled the puzzle pieces. "And you are?" he asked instead. "Wednesday Addams." She leaned forward slightly. "You created a dimensional tear to escape something. The method was crude, dangerous, and by all logical standards should have killed you. Yet here you are." Harry's gaze darted around the room, some kind of medical ward, but unlike Hogwarts hospital wing. Gothic architecture, strange symbols carved into the stone walls, bottles of unrecognizable substances on nearby shelves. "Where exactly is here?" he asked cautiously. "Nevermore Academy. A school for outcasts, those with supernatural abilities or heritage that separates them from normies." Wednesday watched his reaction carefully. "Werewolves, vampires, sirens, gorgons, psychics, but nothing quite like you. Your energy signature is entirely unique in our records." Harry felt cold dread spreading through him. "I need to leave. Now. Inadvisable. Your magical core is severely depleted from the dimensional crossing. Attempting to travel again would likely kill you." Wednesday's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes, a spark of genuine curiosity. "Besides, where would you go? You don't even know what dimension you're in." Before Harry could respond, the door opened, and a regal-looking woman entered, followed by several adults in academic attire. Harry recognized the woman as the one who had approached him before he passed out. "Ah, our visitor is awake," she said, her voice carrying authority. "I'm Principal Weems. Welcome to Nevermore Academy, Mr. Potter," Harry supplied warily. "Harry Potter. Mr. Potter," she continued smoothly. "You gave us quite a scare with your dramatic entrance. Perhaps you could explain exactly how you came to crash our Founders' Day ceremony?" Harry glanced at Wednesday, who gave him an almost imperceptible nod. "I'm not entirely sure," he began carefully. "There was an accident with an experimental spell. I didn't mean to intrude on your school." One of the teachers, a woman with bright red hair and a keen expression, stepped forward. "What kind of spell creates an interdimensional rift?" "That's beyond advanced magic, it's theoretically impossible." "Evidently not," Professor Thornhill, Wednesday interjected. "The residual energy suggests he utilized blood magic combined with quantum displacement theory. Crude but effective." Harry shot Wednesday a warning look, which she ignored completely. Principal Weems studied Harry with increasing interest. "Are you a student somewhere, Mr. Potter?" "Yes," Harry answered, deciding a partial truth was safest. "A school somewhat like this one. For people with magical abilities." "And why were you attempting such dangerous magic? Surely your teachers wouldn't approve." Harry felt his jaw tighten. It was an emergency situation. What kind of emergency drives a teenager to tear holes in the fabric of reality? Professor Thornhill pressed, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. Harry remained silent, unwilling to reveal more. The weight of what had happened at Hogwarts, what he'd been accused of, was still too raw, too horrific. Wednesday stood suddenly. "Principal Weems, Harry's magical core needs time to stabilize. This interrogation could destabilize the recovery process." Principal Weems considered this, then nodded. "Very well. Mr. Potter, we'll continue this discussion when you've recovered more fully. In the meantime, you'll remain at Nevermore as our guest." Her expression hardened slightly. "Under supervision, of course." After the adults left, Harry turned to Wednesday. "Why did you help me?" "I didn't help you. I stated a scientific fact about magical core recovery." She tilted her head slightly. "Though I am curious why someone would risk dimensional travel. The survival rate is theoretically less than 2%. Harry looked away. "Sometimes slim odds are better than no odds." "You're running from something," Wednesday stated. "Not a question." "Aren't we all?" Harry countered. The ghost of a smile flickered across Wednesday's face, so brief he almost missed it. "Welcome to Nevermore, Harry Potter. You might actually fit in here." The next morning, Harry found himself following Wednesday through Nevermore's sprawling campus. His body still ached from the dimensional crossing, but he pushed through the discomfort, taking in his surroundings with wary alertness. Nevermore was like and unlike Hogwarts in disorienting ways. Gothic architecture and ancient stone, yes, but with distinctly American touches. Students wore black uniforms but without house colors. And the students themselves, Harry tried not to stare at the girl with snakes for hair, or the boy casually levitating 6 inches off the ground, or the pair of students comparing fangs by a fountain. "Principal Weems believes you're an outcast with teleportation abilities who lost control," Wednesday explained as they walked. I didn't correct her assumption. "Why not?" Harry asked, surprised. The truth about dimensional travelers would cause unnecessary complications. The faculty would quarantine you for study, and certain students would see you as either a threat or an opportunity. "And what do you see me as?" Harry challenged. Wednesday stopped walking, turning to face him directly. "An anomaly worth investigating. Your presence here defies established magical principles. That makes you interesting." Harry wasn't sure if that was better or worse than being seen as a threat. "So what's the plan?" "Just pretend I belong here until I figure out what to do next." "Essentially." Wednesday resumed walking. You've been temporarily enrolled as a transfer student. You'll attend classes, blend in, and avoid showing abilities that would contradict your cover story. They passed a group of students who openly stared at Harry, whispering among themselves. Word travels fast, Harry muttered. Your entrance was spectacularly public, Wednesday replied. Students here are obsessively documenting your arrival. Enid already has a social media strategy planned for your brand launch. My what? Ignore her. She believes everything requires a social media presence. Wednesday led him toward a large building with cathedral-like windows. This is Ophelia Hall. Combat training begins in 10 minutes. Combat training? Harry echoed, suddenly missing Hogwarts' relatively tame curriculum of transfiguration and charms. Don't worry. First-day students are only required to demonstrate basic defensive capabilities, Wednesday said. Try not to kill anyone. Harry couldn't tell if she was joking. Inside, the hall had been transformed into a training arena. Mats covered the floor, and various weapons lined the walls. Students were already pairing off, stretching and preparing for class. Harry noticed how they naturally sorted themselves, the werewolves together, vampires in another group, and so on. A tall, muscular teacher with tribal markings on his face approached them. Miss Adams. This must be our new arrival. He extended a hand to Harry. Professor Anubis. I teach combat and defense. Harry shook the man's hand, feeling calluses and surprising strength. Harry Potter. English, eh? Professor Anubis nodded. Let's see what you've got. Basic defensive demonstration against, he looked around the room, Miss Adams here. Wednesday raised an eyebrow. I'm not sure that's advisable, Professor. Nonsense. You're the perfect opponent, controlled, precise, and unlikely to accidentally maim our new student. He grinned, revealing teeth that seemed unnaturally sharp. Just a basic demonstration, nothing fancy. They moved to an open mat. Students gathered around, curious about the newcomer. Harry felt their eyes on him, assessing, judging. It reminded him uncomfortably of his first days at Hogwarts. Begin whenever you're ready, Professor Anubis called out. Wednesday didn't waste time with formalities. She moved with startling speed, closing the distance between them in a fluid motion that reminded Harry of dueling against Death Eaters. Pure instinct had him sidestepping, his body remembering training sessions with the DA. Interesting reflexes, Wednesday commented, circling him. You've had combat training. Harry didn't respond, keeping his eyes on her. She struck again, a precise strike aimed at his solar plexus. Harry blocked with his forearm, wincing at the impact. She was stronger than her slim frame suggested. He couldn't use obvious magic, his cover story wouldn't allow for wizard spells. But he didn't need to. Years of dodging Dudley's gang before Hogwarts and fighting dark wizards after had given him physical instincts beyond magic. Wednesday launched a combination attack. Harry evaded the first two strikes but caught the third on his shoulder, staggering back. You're holding back, she accused quietly. So are you, he shot back. A flicker of acknowledgement crossed her face before she changed tactics, sweeping his legs. Harry jumped to avoid it but wasn't prepared for her follow-up. She caught his arm, using his momentum to throw him to the mat. Harry rolled with the impact, coming back to his feet faster than even he expected. Something was different about his body here, maybe the dimensional crossing had changed him somehow, or maybe the magical environment of Nevermore affected him differently than Hogwarts. The students were watching with increasing interest. Harry knew he needed to end this quickly before he revealed too much. The next time Wednesday attacked, he deliberately left an opening, then used her own momentum to grapple her into a stalemate position. They froze there, at an impasse, faces inches apart. Clever, she whispered. You learn quickly. Professor Anubis clapped his hands. Excellent. A natural talent, Mr. Potter. You and Miss Adams seem well matched. As they separated, Harry noticed a tall, elegant girl with caramel skin watching him intently. She smiled when their eyes met, a smile that somehow made him instantly wary. "Who's that?" he asked Wednesday quietly. "Bianca Barkley. Siren. Queen Bee of Nevermore. She collects people like trophies." Wednesday's tone carried the barest hint of warning. "She's already decided you're her next acquisition." "Not interested," Harry muttered. "Your interest is irrelevant to her strategy." Wednesday gathered her things as class ended. Sirens don't require consent to manipulate minds. That sent a chill through Harry, reminding him uncomfortably of the Imperious Curse. As they left class, a boy with thick glasses and a nervous energy ran up to them, clutching a tablet computer. "Wednesday. I analyzed the energy readings from the Founders' Day disruption." He stopped, noticing Harry. "Oh, hi. You must be the Harry Potter," Harry supplied. "Eugene Ottinger," the boy replied, before turning back to Wednesday. "The readings are off the charts. Whatever happened created a spike in the ley line energies running under Nevermore. They're still fluctuating." Wednesday's eyes narrowed. "Show me." Eugene held up his tablet, displaying graphs and readings that meant nothing to Harry but clearly concerned Wednesday. "Has anything like this happened before?" she asked. "Not that I can find in the records, but—" Eugene lowered his voice. "Ajax has been having visions. Bad ones. Started right after the incident." Wednesday frowned. "We need to speak with him." "Where is he now?" "Psychic enhancement class with Professor Xavier. We'll find him after lunch." Wednesday turned to Harry. "You should come too. This likely concerns you." Harry nodded, anxiety churning in his stomach. Whatever had followed him through the dimensional tear, or whatever damage he'd caused by creating it, he needed to know. The Nevermore cafeteria was another disorienting blend of familiar and alien. Long tables like Hogwarts, but with modern touches. Students segregated by supernatural type rather than houses. And the food, Harry stared at his tray, trying to identify what appeared to be meat but definitely wasn't beef or chicken. Chimera flank, Wednesday informed him, noting his hesitation. High in protein and magical residue. Good for replenishing your core. Harry cautiously took a bite and was surprised to find it tasted like a cross between steak and something spicy he couldn't name. Not unpleasant, just strange. They sat at an empty table, though Harry noticed several groups watching them with undisguised curiosity. "So," Harry said quietly, "these outcasts, they're born with their abilities?" Wednesday nodded. "Most inherit their traits genetically. Werewolves from werewolf parents, vampires from vampire lineage, and so on. Some manifest spontaneously in otherwise normie bloodlines. The psychics, mainly." "And you?" Harry asked. "What kind of outcast are you?" Something flickered in Wednesday's eyes, caution, perhaps, or calculation. "My family has unique abilities spanning several classifications. Primarily death-related affinities." Before Harry could ask what that meant, a colorful whirlwind appeared at their table, the girl with rainbow hair he'd glimpsed briefly in the infirmary. "Oh my God, I can't believe Wednesday's actually letting you sit with her," the girl exclaimed, dropping into the seat across from Harry. "I'm Enid Sinclair, Wednesday's roommate. You must be really special because she normally hates everyone." "I don't hate everyone," Wednesday corrected flatly. "I simply find most people tedious and disappointing." "See?" Enid grinned at Harry. "That's practically a declaration of friendship in Wednesday speak." She leaned forward conspiratorially. "So, teleportation, huh? That's so cool. What's your range? Can you take people with you? Do you leave behind any residue? Does it hurt?" Harry shot a panicked glance at Wednesday, who intervened. "Enid, Harry's still recovering from his mishap. Perhaps interrogate him after his magical core has stabilized. Enid pouted but nodded. Fine, but I have so many questions for my blog. You're already trending on Nevermore Night, you know. I'm what? Harry asked. It's the Student Gossip Network, Wednesday explained with clear disapproval. Enid runs a popular channel. Not just popular, the most followed account in school history. Enid beamed. Your entrance already has over 2 million views, and that's just my coverage. Mystery Boy crashes Founders Day in ball of blue fire. The comments section is wild with theories about you. Harry felt a familiar unease, the same sensation he'd experienced whenever the Daily Prophet had focused on him. Great, he muttered. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion across the cafeteria. A boy staggered in, eyes rolling back to show only whites, body trembling violently. Students scrambled away as he collapsed to the floor, seizing. Wednesday was on her feet immediately. That's Ajax. They rushed over as faculty members converged on the trembling student. Ajax's body arched off the floor unnaturally, and he began speaking in a voice that wasn't his own, deeper, resonant, with an otherworldly quality that raised the hairs on Harry's arms. The barrier thins. Worlds bleed together. The crossing tears reality. He comes, the hunter between worlds comes for the trespasser. Ajax's finger rose, pointing directly at Harry across the room. Every head turned to stare. Death follows the boy who should not be here. Death walks in his shadow. With a final shudder, Ajax collapsed completely, unconscious. Professor Xavier, a slender woman with silver streaks in her dark hair, knelt beside him. Take him to the infirmary, she ordered several staff members, before her eyes found Harry in the crowd. Her expression hardened. Mr. Potter, Principal Weem's office. Now. Principal Weem's office reminded Harry uncomfortably of being summoned to Dumbledore's, the sense of being measured by someone who could see more than you wished them to. The difference was that Dumbledore had usually known what was happening. Principal Weems was clearly working with incomplete information, which made her wariness all the more pronounced. Mr. Potter, she began, fingers steepled in front of her. It seems your arrival has coincided with some disturbing events. I didn't do anything to that boy, Harry said immediately. Ajax Patroclus is one of our most gifted psychics, she continued. His visions, while sometimes cryptic, are invariably accurate. Her eyes narrowed slightly. He spoke of death following you. Care to explain? Harry shifted uncomfortably. I don't know what he meant. I think you do. Principal Weems leaned forward. Mr. Potter, I've been accommodating thus far, but my primary responsibility is to the safety of this school and its students. If your presence endangers them, I need to know why. Harry weighed his options. The partial truth had worked before, perhaps it would again. I was involved in a conflict at my previous school. Someone tried to frame me for something I didn't do. I had to leave quickly, and the spell I used was experimental. Maybe it had unforeseen consequences. What kind of consequences? Before Harry could answer, the door opened, and Wednesday walked in without waiting for permission. Miss Adams, Principal Weems said sharply. This is a private meeting. Ajax is awake, Wednesday stated. He's asking for Harry. Says it's urgent. Principal Weems frowned but stood. Very well. Let's hear what he has to say. As they walked to the infirmary, Harry whispered to Wednesday, How did you know to come in just then? I didn't, she replied. But interruptions often provide tactical advantages during interrogations. So Ajax isn't actually asking for me. He is now. I stopped by the infirmary on my way to the principal's office. Harry blinked. You manipulated events so I wouldn't have to answer her questions. I manipulated events to gather more information before conclusions are drawn, Wednesday corrected. There's a difference. In the infirmary, Ajax sat propped up in bed, looking pale and drained. His eyes, now back to normal, a deep brown, widened when Harry entered. "You brought him," he said to Wednesday. "Good." Principal Weems moved closer. "Ajax, what did you see in your vision?" Ajax's eyes never left Harry. Something followed him through the tear. Not physically, more like an echo. A hunter that tracks those who cross between dimensions. "A hunter?" Harry repeated. "What kind of hunter?" "I couldn't see it clearly. Just darkness, moving between worlds. Finding tiers in reality and widening them." Ajax shuddered. "It's drawn to dimensional anomalies. Like you." Wednesday stepped closer. "Has it attacked anyone yet?" Ajax nodded weakly. "There's another student, a freshman. Jericho Vane. He disappeared from his dorm last night. No one's seen him since." Principal Weems straightened. "This is the first I'm hearing of a missing student." "Because his roommate only reported it an hour ago," Ajax explained. "Thought he was just skipping classes." "What makes you think this disappearance is connected to whatever you saw in your vision?" Principal Weems asked. Ajax swallowed. "Because Jericho isn't from our dimension either. He arrived 3 months ago. Been keeping it secret, but he told me. Said he was a refugee from a reality where normies hunted down people with abilities." The revelation hung heavily in the air. Harry felt a cold dread spreading through him. If what Ajax said was true, then his arrival had drawn attention to another dimensional traveler who had been hiding successfully until now. "We need to find him," Harry said firmly. Principal Weems raised an eyebrow. "We will investigate Mr. Vane's disappearance, Mr. Potter. You will remain under supervision and, with respect, Principal Weems," Wednesday interrupted, "if a transdimensional predator is hunting students, conventional search methods will be ineffective. Harry's unique energy signature might help track it. And paint a target on his back in the process," Principal Weems countered. "The target is already there," Wednesday pointed out. "The question is whether we use it strategically or merely wait for the hunter to strike again." Harry was surprised by Wednesday's advocacy but grateful for it. He couldn't sit by while someone else was in danger because of him. Principal Weems considered this, then sighed. "You have until nightfall to investigate. Miss Adams will accompany you at all times. At the first sign of danger, you return immediately and alert faculty. Is that clear?" Harry nodded. "Perfectly." As they left the infirmary, Wednesday led Harry down a corridor he hadn't seen before. "We need to gather equipment from my room first," she said. "If we're hunting a transdimensional predator, we'll need specialized tools." "Do you even know what this thing is?" Harry asked. "No," Wednesday admitted. "But I've been researching dimensional theory since you arrived. There are legends in multiple cultures about entities that exist between realities. The Aztecs called them Tzitzimima, star demons that hunt during eclipses when the barrier between worlds thins. And you think that's what's after me? Us? It's a working hypothesis." Wednesday pushed open a door to reveal a dormitory room that was half bubblegum pop dream, presumably Enid side, and half gothic nightmare, obviously Wednesday's. "We need to find Jericho before the hunter does, if it hasn't already." Harry watched as she retrieved a leather bag from under her bed and began filling it with strange instruments. "Why are you helping me?" he asked suddenly. "You barely know me." Wednesday paused, considering the question. 3 reasons. First, this entity threatens Nevermore, and despite my general disdain for school spirit, I prefer my educational environment not be invaded by interdimensional predators. Second, your arrival represents a scientific anomaly worth studying firsthand. And third. She hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. You're the first person who's arrived here as much of an outcast among outcasts as I am. It's intellectually stimulating. Coming from Wednesday, Harry suspected this was as close to admitting to friendship as she was likely to get. Where do we start looking for Jericho? He asked. Wednesday pulled out what looked like a modified compass. We start where the dimensional energy is strongest. The place you arrived. The ritual grounds were empty now, the charred remains of the bonfire still visible in the center of the stone circle. As they approached, Harry felt a strange resonance, like his magic was responding to something in the air. The dimensional tear originated here, Wednesday said, consulting her compass-like device. The energy signature is still active, though fading. Harry approached the center of the circle cautiously. I can feel it. Like a vibration in my magic. Your magical core likely retained properties from your home dimension, Wednesday theorized. It's responding to the residual energy. Harry closed his eyes, focusing on the sensation. It reminded him of detecting magical traces, something Dumbledore had begun teaching him before everything went wrong. There's something else here, he said slowly. Not just the tear I made. Something older. Wednesday looked up sharply. What do you mean? Like this wasn't the first tear in this spot. The magic feels worn, like fabric that's been stretched repeatedly. Wednesday moved closer, her own device clicking rapidly. That would explain why your dimensional jump brought you specifically to Nevermore. You didn't randomly appear here, you were drawn to a pre-existing weak point between dimensions. Which means Jericho might have come through here too, Harry concluded. And potentially others before him. Wednesday knelt, examining the ground. Nevermore was built on this spot in 1791. If this area has always been a dimensional weak point, then the school might have been built to monitor it, Harry finished her thought. Like Hogwarts was built where magical ley lines converged. Wednesday raised an eyebrow at the unfamiliar reference but nodded. We need to check the archives. The school's founding documents might contain information about dimensional anomalies. As they turned to leave, Harry froze. A shadow near the edge of the forest seemed to move independently of the trees casting it. He gripped his wand in his pocket, pulse quickening. Wednesday, he said quietly. Don't turn around too quickly, but I think we're being watched. Wednesday ignored his instruction entirely, spinning around and staring directly at the forest edge. Where? The shadow wavered, then retreated deeper into the trees. There. Harry pointed, already moving. It's running. They sprinted toward the forest. Harry was faster, his seeker reflexes giving him an edge as he dodged between trees, keeping the fleeing shadow in sight. It moved unnaturally, sometimes flowing like liquid across the ground, other times seeming to flicker between locations. It's not fully corporeal, Wednesday called from behind him. Dimensional entities often can't maintain complete physical presence. The shadow suddenly stopped in a small clearing, turning to face them. As they skidded to a halt, Harry finally got a clear look at their pursuer, or was it their quarry? It was humanoid but wrong in subtle ways. Its proportions were slightly off, limbs too long, joints bending at unnatural angles. Its face was blank where features should be, just smooth darkness with occasional ripples like disturbed water. It seemed to be studying them. Harry raised his wand instinctively. Beside him, Wednesday had pulled out a strange device from her bag that emitted a soft, pulsing light. Is that the hunter? Harry whispered. The entity tilted its featureless head, as if considering the question. Then, to Harry's shock, it spoke, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, bypassing their ears and speaking directly into their minds. Not hunter. Hunted. Like you. Harry lowered his wand slightly. You're running from something too. The Void Walker comes. Tears reality. Feeds on those between worlds. The entity's form rippled anxiously. You opened the way. It sensed you. Followed. Wednesday stepped forward. Are you Jericho Vane? The entity's form seemed to solidify slightly, features becoming more distinct, a teenage boy's face emerging from the darkness. Was Jericho. Now, less. More. Different. What happened to you? Harry asked. Hiding. Years hiding. Then you came. Bright tear. Too bright. Drew attention. The partially formed face twisted in what might have been fear. It found me first. Easier prey. Began to feed. Couldn't complete. I escaped, partially. This void walker, Wednesday pressed. What is it exactly? Ancient. Hungry. Travels between realities consuming those who don't belong. Jericho's form shuddered. Coming for you next, Tearmaker. His blank eyes fixed on Harry. Already tastes your magic. Tracking you. Harry felt cold dread washing over him. How do we stop it? Can't stop. Can only seal the tears. Send you back where you belong. Jericho's form began to fade. Hurry. Night comes. It hunts best in darkness. Wait. Wednesday called. How do we seal the tears? But Jericho was already gone, melting into the shadows of the forest like he had never been there at all. Harry and Wednesday stood in silence for a moment, processing what they'd learned. Well, Wednesday finally said, it appears the dimensional anomaly situation is worse than anticipated. Harry couldn't help a short, slightly hysterical laugh. That's one way of putting it. There's an interdimensional predator hunting me, and apparently the only solution is to send me back to a world where I'm wanted for murders I didn't commit. We don't know that returning is the only option, Wednesday countered. Jericho is clearly compromised. His information may be incomplete or distorted by his partial consumption. Partial consumption, Harry repeated numbly. That's terrifying. Yes, Wednesday agreed matter-of-factly. We need more information. The archives, then the library. There must be records of previous dimensional incursions. As they hurried back toward the school, the sun was already beginning to set, casting long shadows across the grounds. Harry couldn't shake the feeling that some of those shadows were watching them, waiting for darkness to fall completely. The Nevermore archives were housed in a sub-basement beneath the library, a cavernous room filled with floor-to-ceiling shelves of ancient books, scrolls, and artifacts. The air smelled of dust and preservation spells, reminding Harry painfully of long hours spent in the Hogwarts library with Hermione. Wednesday moved through the stacks with practiced efficiency, pulling volumes apparently at random but clearly following some organizational system only she understood. The founding documents should be in the restricted collection, she said, approaching a locked gate at the back of the archives. Let me guess, Harry said. Students aren't allowed in there. Wednesday pulled out a key. I have special access. Academic excellence has its privileges. Of course you do, Harry muttered, following her through the gate. The restricted section was smaller but even more ancient, with books chained to shelves and strange artifacts displayed in glass cases. Wednesday headed directly for a large stone chest in the center of the room. The original charter and founding journals, she explained, inserting her key into the lock. If Nevermore was built to monitor dimensional weak points, the evidence would be here. The chest opened with a groan of ancient hinges. Inside, wrapped in preservation cloth, lay a collection of leather-bound journals and scrolls. Wednesday carefully extracted the topmost journal. Corvinus Nevermore's personal diary, she said with the faintest hint of excitement in her otherwise flat voice. The school's founder. She opened it carefully, and they bent over the yellowed pages covered in elegant but fading script. Wednesday's finger traced the lines as she translated the archaic language. Listen to this, she said after several minutes. The location was selected not for its scenic qualities, though they are abundant, but for the unique properties of the magical convergence beneath the ground. The ancient peoples knew of it, a place where the veil between worlds grows thin at certain times. They left warnings in stone about the shadow eaters who could slip through during celestial alignments. Harry leaned closer. Shadow eaters? Like the void walker Jericho mentioned? Wednesday nodded, continuing to read. We have established the Academy directly upon this convergence point to monitor and, if necessary, defend against incursions. The ritual circle will serve both as a focusing tool for our students' abilities and as an early warning system should the veil thin dangerously. She turned the page, eyes widening slightly. The first test came sooner than anticipated. During the winter solstice of our first year, a darkness seeped through during our ceremonial fire. It took corporeal form and attacked 3 students before we could contain it. 2 survived. The entity seemed to feed on their life essence rather than merely killing them, a curious distinction but one that offered no comfort to young Mr. Hawthorne's grieving parents. "So this has happened before," Harry said grimly. "Many times, apparently." Wednesday flipped forward several pages. "Our 4th incursion this decade. The pattern becomes clear, the boundary weakens during specific astronomical alignments. We have developed a ritual to strengthen the veil during these periods, though it requires significant magical expenditure from the faculty." Harry felt a chill. "What's the next alignment?" Wednesday closed the journal, expression grave. "If I'm calculating correctly based on his astronomical references, tonight. The spring equinox." "That can't be a coincidence," Harry said. "My arrival, Jericho being attacked, Ajax's vision, all leading up to tonight. The Founders' Day ceremony," Wednesday realized. It wasn't just tradition. It was the preventative ritual Corvinus mentioned. The one we interrupted when you crashed through. The implications hung heavily between them. Harry's arrival had disrupted the very ritual designed to prevent what was now happening. "We need to tell Principal Weems," Harry said. "If there's a ritual that can strengthen the veil, we need the complete ritual instructions first," Wednesday interrupted, already pulling more journals from the chest. "Corvinus mentions developing it, but not the specific components." They searched through several more journals, the sense of urgency growing as daylight faded from the high windows of the archives. Finally, in a journal dated nearly 30 years after the founding, they found what they were looking for. "Here," Wednesday said. "The ritual of boundary reinforcement, as refined through decades of trial. The circle must be prepared with salt of the earth and blood of the willing. The fire must burn with wood from trees growing directly upon the convergence point. As the alignments reach their apex, the 5 elements must be represented in the circle: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. The incantation must be spoken by one who has witnessed the beyond but remained untouched by its corruption." "That's specific," Harry commented. "Do we have everything we need?" "Salt, yes. Blood of the willing is straightforward enough. The wood." Wednesday frowned. "We'd need to harvest it from the exact trees around the ritual site. The 5 elements can be symbolically represented. But the incantation being spoken by one who has witnessed the beyond. That would be me," Harry said. "I've crossed dimensions. But have you remained untouched by its corruption?" Wednesday questioned. "Your magical signature has already been altered by the crossing." Before Harry could respond, a bone-chilling scream echoed through the archives. They both froze, listening as it cut off abruptly. "That came from upstairs," Harry said, already moving toward the exit. "In the library." They raced up the stairs, Harry with his wand drawn, Wednesday with some kind of device from her bag that pulsed with energy. The library was dimly lit, most students having left for dinner. They moved cautiously between the stacks, following the sound of a strange, wet shuffling. They found the source in the reference section. A girl lay crumpled on the floor, her body partially transparent, as if she were fading from existence. Standing over her was a tall, humanoid figure that seemed to drink in the surrounding light. Unlike Jericho's shadowy but still somewhat human form, this creature was like a whole in reality, a 3-dimensional silhouette of absolute darkness. It turned as they approached, revealing not a face but a swirling vortex where features should be. Harry felt his scar prickle painfully, not the burning agony of Voldemort's presence, but a different kind of magical resonance. "Tearmaker," the creature's voice slithered into Harry's mind. I have waited for one such as you. Get away from her, Harry demanded, raising his wand. The Void Walker, for Harry was certain that's what they faced, tilted its non-head curiously. This morsel. Barely worth consuming. Not like you, child of another reality. Your essence is, rich with possibilities. It moved away from the girl, gliding toward them with unnatural smoothness. Wednesday activated her device, which emitted a high-pitched whine. The creature flinched but continued advancing. Dimensional disruptor, Wednesday explained quickly. Designed to destabilize non-corporeal entities. It's not strong enough to stop it, just slow it down. Harry thought rapidly. His magic had worked in this dimension so far, but would it affect this creature? Only one way to find out. Stupefy, he shouted, a jet of red light erupting from his wand. The spell hit the Void Walker squarely, and passed straight through, as if hitting smoke. The creature's laughter echoed in their minds. Your magic is formidable, Tearmaker, but misapplied. I exist between your rules of reality. Run, Wednesday said calmly, backing up. We need to complete the ritual. It's the only way to seal the tear and banish it. They turned and sprinted through the library, the Void Walker gliding after them with inexorable patience. As they burst through the main doors into the corridor, Wednesday pulled a small object from her pocket and tossed it behind them. An explosion of blinding light erupted, followed by an inhuman shriek. Light bomb, she explained as they ran. Concentrated photon emission. Creatures of void typically have sensitivity to certain light frequencies. That's handy, Harry panted. Where do we go now? The ritual circle. We need to prepare it before the alignment reaches its peak at midnight. Wednesday checked her watch. We have less than 4 hours. As they raced across the campus, Harry noticed other students running in panic, some looking partially transparent like the girl in the library. It's attacking more students, he realized with horror. We need to warn everyone. At that moment, alarms began blaring across the school, a pulsing, magical sound that seemed to resonate with the very stones of the buildings. Dimensional breach protocol, Wednesday explained. The faculty must have detected the incursions. Students will be secured in warded safe rooms. They reached the main hall to find Principal Weems directing faculty members and senior students. Miss Adams. Mr. Potter, she called when she spotted them. Where have you been? The school is under lockdown. We know what's happening, Wednesday said quickly. The Void Walker, an interdimensional predator. It's hunting anyone with connections to other dimensions, starting with Jericho Vane. Principal Weems' expression darkened. We found 3 students already affected. They're fading somehow. It's consuming their essence, Wednesday explained. We found information in the archives about a ritual to seal the dimensional tear and banish the entity. The original Founders' Day ceremony was designed specifically for this purpose. Which I interrupted by crashing through, Harry added grimly. This is happening because of me. Intentional or not, we need to fix it, Principal Weems said firmly. What do you need for this ritual? Wednesday quickly listed the requirements. Principal Weems nodded, already issuing orders to faculty members. Professor Thornhill, collect wood from the trees surrounding the ritual site. Professor Xavier, will need representation of the 5 elements. Professor Anubis, security perimeter around the circle. She turned back to Wednesday and Harry. The ritual needs to be performed by someone who has crossed dimensions. Yes, Harry confirmed. That would be me. Principal Weems studied him for a moment. Are you certain you can do this, Mr. Potter? From what Miss Adams describes, this will be dangerous. Harry thought of the students already attacked, of Jericho's half-consumed form, of the tear in reality he'd unintentionally widened. I have to try. This is my responsibility. The principal nodded once. Very well. Miss Adams will assist you with the preparations. The rest of us will secure the school and buy you time. As faculty mobilized around them, Wednesday pulled Harry aside. "There's one component we didn't mention to Principal Weems." "What's that?" "The ritual may seal you on one side of the dimensional barrier permanently." Wednesday's dark eyes held his steadily. "If you perform it, you might never be able to return to your home dimension." Harry absorbed this. Never return to Hogwarts, to Ron and Hermione, assuming they would even want to see him again after what they believed he'd done. Never see the wizarding world again. "My home dimension thinks I'm a murderer," he said quietly. Maybe this is where I'm supposed to be now." Wednesday studied him, then nodded once. "Let's prepare the ritual." Night had fallen completely by the time they reached the ritual circle. Faculty members worked quickly, arranging wood from the surrounding trees in the center while students placed salt in precise patterns around the perimeter. Professor Xavier supervised the positioning of elemental representations, a bowl of earth, a feather for air, the wood itself for fire, a vial of water, and a crystal for spirit. Harry and Wednesday reviewed the incantation from Corvinus's journal, committing the ancient words to memory. The language was unfamiliar to Harry, but not entirely unlike some of the Latin-based spells he knew from Hogwarts. "The alignment will reach its peak in 20 minutes, Professor Xavier announced, checking astronomical calculations. "The tear will be at its most vulnerable then. And also at its widest," Wednesday added. "The Void Walker will have maximum access to our dimension." As if summoned by her words, screams erupted from the forest edge. Two security team members came running back, one supporting his colleague who appeared to be dissolving, his edges blurring into transparency. "It's coming," the unaffected guard shouted. "The shadow, it attacked us at the perimeter." Professor Anubis rallied his remaining security team. "Defensive positions. Buy them time to complete the ritual." Harry turned to Wednesday. "We need to start now. I don't think we can wait for the perfect alignment." She nodded, handing him a ceremonial knife. "Blood of the willing." 7 drops into the center of the circle. Harry took the knife, making a small cut on his palm without hesitation. He walked to the center of the circle, letting 7 drops fall onto the arranged wood. Each drop sizzled strangely as it hit, emitting tiny sparks of blue light. "Now we need fire," Wednesday said. Before Harry could ask how they would light it, a disturbance at the forest edge drew everyone's attention. Trees bent unnaturally, their shadows stretching and twisting toward the ritual circle. The darkness between them coalesced into the Void Walker's towering form, now even larger than before, its vortex face swirling with hungry anticipation. "The Tearmaker prepares to close my doorway," its voice invaded all their minds simultaneously. How inconvenient. The security team moved to intercept it, but the creature simply flowed around them like smoke, heading directly for the ritual circle. Professor Thornhill stepped forward, casting some kind of containment spell that momentarily slowed the entity. "Light the fire now," Professor Xavier shouted. Harry pointed his wand at the wood. Incendio. Blue flames erupted, identical to the fire that had been burning when he first arrived. The Void Walker shrieked, a sound like reality tearing, and surged forward with greater urgency. "Begin the incantation," Wednesday instructed, taking position across from Harry. Harry started reciting the ancient words, feeling them resonate strangely with his magic. The fire between them grew higher, its light seemingly painful to the approaching Void Walker, who slowed but continued advancing relentlessly. The security team's efforts were proving futile, the creature simply flowed through or around their magical barriers. Professor Thornhill cast increasingly complex spells, her face strained with effort, but the Void Walker absorbed each attack without apparent damage. As Harry reached the midpoint of the incantation, the fire suddenly changed color, shifting from blue to a brilliant white that illuminated the entire clearing. The Void Walker recoiled, its form momentarily destabilizing. "It's working," Professor Xavier called. "The dimensional alignment is responding to the ritual." Harry continued the incantation, each word feeling heavier than the last, as if he were physically pushing against some great weight. The white fire spiraled upward, forming a column that stretched toward the stars. Around them, the salt circle began to glow with the same brilliant light. The Void Walker rallied, pushing through the pain of the light. It reached the edge of the salt circle, clawed hands of darkness extending toward Harry. "If I cannot feast in this dimension, I will take you back with me, Tearmaker," it promised. "Your essence will sustain me for centuries." Wednesday stepped forward, placing herself between Harry and the creature. "Continue the incantation," she ordered. "Don't stop for anything." She pulled a small device from her bag, different from the others she'd used. It looked almost like a miniature sun, glowing with contained energy. "Photon compressor," she explained calmly. "Untested prototype. Theoretically creates a momentary light equivalent to a small star." The Void Walker hesitated, sensing the threat. "That'll kill you too at this range," Harry broke off the incantation to warn her. "Probably not," Wednesday replied. 87% survival probability. Acceptable odds." Her finger moved to the activation switch. "Continue the ritual, Harry." Harry hesitated for only a second before resuming the ancient words, voice growing stronger with each phrase. The white fire column pulsed in rhythm with his words, the salt circle's glow intensifying. The Void Walker lunged, one shadowy hand breaching the salt barrier. Wednesday triggered her device without hesitation. For a split second, night became day. Blinding, impossible light erupted from the tiny device, so intense that Harry's vision whited out completely despite his closed eyes. The Void Walker's scream tore through their minds, a sound of such primal agony that several nearby students collapsed clutching their heads. When Harry could see again, squinting through the afterimages burning in his retinas, he found Wednesday still standing, clothes smoldering slightly but otherwise intact. The Void Walker had been driven back to the forest edge, its form significantly diminished and unstable. "Finish it," Wednesday said, her voice hoarse but steady. Harry spoke the final phrases of the incantation, each word now carrying visible power as it left his lips. The white fire column suddenly expanded outward, forming a dome of pure light over the entire ritual circle. The salt line blazed like molten silver. The tear, visible now as an actual rift in the air above them, a jagged crack in reality itself, began to shrink. The Void Walker howled in fury and desperation, making one final lunge toward the closing tear. "No!" Harry shouted, instinctively raising his wand. "Expecto Patronum." The silver stag erupted from his wand, more substantial than Harry had ever seen it, charging directly at the Void Walker. When it connected, the creature recoiled as if physically struck. The Patronus continued to push, driving the entity back toward the rapidly closing tear. "It's working," Wednesday said, genuine surprise in her voice. "Your protective spirit magic is effective against it." With a final surge of effort, Harry poured every positive emotion he could muster into the Patronus. The stag grew blindingly bright, hurting the shrieking Void Walker back through the dimensional tear just as it sealed with a sound like thunder. The white fire column collapsed, the salt circle's glow faded, and suddenly the forest was dark and still again. Harry stood trembling with exhaustion, wand arm still outstretched. Around the circle, students and faculty slowly recovered, staring at the now ordinary ritual site in disbelief. Wednesday approached Harry, looking slightly singed but otherwise unharmed. "Ritual successful. Dimensional tear sealed. Void Walker banished." She paused, studying him with something almost like respect. "Your protective spirit entity was unexpected but effective." "Patronus," Harry corrected automatically. "It's called a Patronus." Principal Weems joined them, looking both relieved and stern. "Mr. Potter, Miss Adams. It seems we owe you our gratitude. The affected students are already beginning to recover. The Void Walker's influence is fading now that it's been banished," Wednesday explained. "Those not fully consumed should recover completely." "And Jericho?" Harry asked. Principal Weem's expression softened slightly. Mr. Vane was more severely affected, but Professor Xavier believes he will eventually regain his corporeal form completely. It will take time. Harry nodded, relief washing through him. Then a new thought occurred to him, and he turned to Wednesday. The ritual sealed the tear completely? She nodded once. Yes. The dimensional barrier between your world and ours is now stronger than before. No crossing in either direction will be possible at this convergence point. The full reality of his situation settled on Harry's shoulders. He was truly stuck here now, for better or worse, Nevermore was his home. Principal Weems seemed to read his thoughts. Mr. Potter, it seems we owe you a more permanent place at Nevermore Academy. If you wish to stay, of course. Harry looked around at the students and faculty recovering from the ordeal, at this strange school for outcasts where, paradoxically, he might finally belong. Thank you, he said simply. I think I'd like that. Wednesday regarded him with her usual unreadable expression. You'll need a guide to Nevermore's peculiarities. The social dynamics are tediously complex. Harry recognized this for what it was, Wednesday's unique version of extending friendship. Are you volunteering? I'm stating a fact, she replied. Whether it constitutes volunteering is irrelevant. You'll need assistance, and I find your dimensional displacement scientifically interesting. Harry couldn't help but smile. So we're allies? Wednesday considered this for a moment. I suppose that term is acceptable. Alliance implies mutual benefit without the messy emotional entanglements of friendship. Alliance it is, then, Harry agreed, extending his hand. Wednesday looked at it briefly before giving it a perfunctory shake. Our first priority should be securing you proper documentation. Existing as an interdimensional refugee without paperwork will create unnecessary complications. As they walked back toward the school, students still giving them a wide berth after witnessing the battle, Harry felt something he hadn't expected to feel again after fleeing Hogwarts, a tentative sense of hope. He was a stranger in a strange land, but for the first time, that felt less like exile and more like a new beginning. By the way, he said to Wednesday as they reached the main building, that device of yours, the photon compressor, was impressive. It was untested, she replied. The actual survival probability was closer to 60%. I rounded up to avoid unnecessary concern on your part. Harry stared at her. You risked your life with 40% odds of dying. Wednesday shrugged slightly. The Void Walker presented a greater statistical threat. It was the logical choice. Well, thank you. For helping me. For everything. Wednesday didn't smile. Harry was beginning to think she physically couldn't, but something in her eyes softened fractionally. Don't become sentimental, Harry Potter. This alliance is based on mutual advantage, not emotional attachment. Of course, Harry agreed, hiding his own smile. Purely strategic. As they entered Nevermore's Grand Hall, students parted before them, whispering about the dimensional wizard and his unlikely alliance with Wednesday Addams. Harry felt their stares but found he didn't mind them as much as he once had. After facing interdimensional predators, school gossip seemed rather trivial. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, learning Nevermore's curriculum, understanding this world's magic, building a new life. But for tonight, he had survived, helped save his new school, and even made an ally, however reluctant she might be to admit it. For the boy who lived, now the boy who vanished from his own world, it was enough. Chapter 2, Outcasts Among Outcasts. Harry woke at dawn, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar canopy above his bed. Not the Gryffindor dormitory. Not the Dursleys. The events of yesterday crashed back, dimensional travel, the Void Walker, sealing the tear that had brought him here. He was at Nevermore Academy now. Permanently. You snore, a dry voice observed. Harry bolted upright, grabbing his wand from beneath his pillow. Wednesday Addams sat in a chair by the window, reading a thick leather-bound book with yellowed pages. Bloody hell. Harry lowered his wand. How long have you been there? 3 hours, 17 minutes. Wednesday didn't look up from her book. Your REM cycles are abnormally short. Consistent with trauma-induced sleep disturbance. Harry rubbed his face. Why are you in my room at? He squinted at the clock, 5:43 in the morning. We have work to do. Wednesday closed her book with a decisive snap. The dimensional incursion may have been contained, but numerous questions remain unanswered. Can these questions wait until after breakfast? Harry asked, reaching for his glasses. No. Wednesday stood. Principal Weems has called an emergency faculty meeting regarding your status. We need information before they make decisions about you. That got Harry moving. After hastily dressing in the Nevermore uniform Principal Weems had provided, black slacks, white shirt, black jacket with the school's raven emblem, he followed Wednesday through the still-sleeping dormitory. Where exactly are we going? He whispered as they slipped down a servant's staircase. Archives, Wednesday replied. The journals we found mentioned previous dimensional travelers. If we're going to establish you here properly, we need precedents. Harry considered this as they navigated the silent corridors. You think the faculty might try to, what? Kick me out? Or worse. Wednesday's tone was matter-of-fact. Interdimensional anomalies represent unknown variables. Educational institutions dislike unknown variables. Speaking from experience? Harry asked, noting something personal in her assessment. Wednesday paused briefly. My family has a complicated history with educational institutions. Before Harry could ask what that meant, they reached the archive entrance. Wednesday produced her key and they slipped inside, using wand light, or in Wednesday's case, a strange phosphorescent stick, to navigate the gloomy stacks. Here, Wednesday said, pulling out a dusty volume labeled Student Registry, 1880 to 1900. According to Corvinus's journals, a dimensional traveler enrolled during this period. They carried several heavy volumes to a reading table. As Wednesday methodically searched the first book, Harry felt a question bubbling up. Yesterday, when we faced the Void Walker, that device you used. You said there was a 40% chance it would kill you. Correct. Wednesday didn't look up. Why risk that for someone you barely know? Wednesday paused, seemingly considering the question's merit. 3 reasons. First, the Void Walker represented a greater statistical threat than my device. Second, as the only person with interdimensional experience, you were essential to completing the ritual. Third. She hesitated. Scientific curiosity. I've never encountered anyone from another reality before. Harry sensed there was more, but didn't push. Well, thanks. I owe you. Yes, you do. Wednesday turned a page. And I intend to collect. Your magical methodology is unlike anything in our records. I want to study it. You want me to teach you wizard magic? Harry asked, surprised. A cultural exchange would be mutually beneficial. I can help you understand outcast abilities in return. Harry considered this. Having an ally who understood this world's magic would be invaluable. All right. Deal. Found something, Wednesday announced suddenly. Percival Blackwood, enrolled 1887. Notes in the margin indicate special circumstances and references to otherworldly origin. Harry leaned closer. What happened to him? Graduated 1891 with honors in dimensional theory. Founded, interesting. Wednesday's eyebrows raised fractionally, the most expression Harry had seen from her. He founded the Department of Interdimensional Studies at Nevermore, which was discontinued in 1932 after the unfortunate incident. What incident? Harry asked. Unspecified. Wednesday flipped through more pages. But this confirms dimensional travelers have successfully integrated into Nevermore before. We need to locate Blackwood's research. A noise outside the archives froze them both. Voices approaching, one distinctly belonging to Principal Weems. Wednesday quickly closed the books, replacing them on shelves as Harry extinguished his wand light. "This way," she whispered, leading him behind a large bookcase. She pressed a carved raven on the wood paneling, revealing a hidden passage. Servant corridors. The original building had dozens. They slipped through just as the archive door opened. Inside the narrow passage, dust tickled Harry's nose, and he stifled a sneeze against his sleeve. "Where do these lead?" he whispered. "Throughout the school. The Addams family donated substantially to Nevermore's construction. My great-great-grandmother insisted on alternative exit strategies." Harry followed her through the dimly lit passage. "Your family has a history with this place, then?" "Addamses have attended Nevermore for generations," Wednesday confirmed. "Though I'm the first to room with a werewolf who insists on decorating with rainbows." The passage eventually opened into a small, circular room lined with bookshelves. Wednesday lit an old lamp, revealing a cozy if dusty private study. "My personal research space," she explained. "Faculty doesn't know about it." Harry whistled softly. "Impressive." He examined the shelves, occult volumes, scientific journals, and what appeared to be extensive files on Nevermore students and faculty. "You've been busy. Information is power." Wednesday moved to a cabinet, extracting a rolled parchment. "This is what we need. Original blueprints of Nevermore, including Blackwood's Interdimensional Studies department." She spread the blueprint across a table. The schematics showed Nevermore's main building with several wings, one labeled IDS in faded ink. "East Wing, 3rd floor," Wednesday noted. "Now used for storage according to current plans." "We should check it out," Harry said, studying the layout. If Blackwood researched dimensional travel, his equipment might still be there. "After we attend your evaluation," Wednesday reminded him. "Principal Weems has scheduled it for 9 a.m. The faculty will assess your abilities to determine proper placement." Harry grimaced. "So I'm being tested?" "Naturally. Unknown variables require classification." Wednesday gathered the blueprint. "They'll want to categorize your abilities within their understanding of outcast types. And when my magic doesn't fit their categories?" "That," Wednesday said, "is where things become interesting." Harry had faced many intimidating situations, Voldemort, Dementors, an angry Molly Weasley, but standing before Nevermore's faculty council ranked surprisingly high on the list. 6 professors sat at a long table, Principal Weems center, all watching him with expressions ranging from curiosity to suspicion. "Mr. Potter," Principal Weems began, "thank you for agreeing to this evaluation. After yesterday's events, we need to understand your abilities to properly integrate you into Nevermore." Harry nodded, conscious of Wednesday standing stoically beside him. She'd insisted on attending as his cultural liaison, a term Principal Weems had accepted with visible skepticism. "I understand," Harry said. "What do you need me to do?" Professor Xavier, the psychic studies teacher, leaned forward. "Perhaps a demonstration of your teleportation ability? That seems to be your primary talent." Harry glanced at Wednesday. They'd prepared for this. His cover story needed maintenance, but he could demonstrate magic that might resemble teleportation. "It's not exactly teleportation," he began carefully. "More like displacement. And I can't do it again right now. The accident drained my energy." "Convenient," muttered Professor Thornhill, the red-headed faculty member who'd questioned him yesterday. Her eyes narrowed. "What abilities can you demonstrate?" Harry drew his wand, causing several professors to tense. "I use this as a focus tool. It helps channel my abilities." "A wand?" Professor Anubis chuckled. "Rather archaic, isn't it? Different cultures develop different magical methodologies," Wednesday interjected flatly. "Many ancient traditions used wands before contemporary outcasts evolved past them. Professor Thornhill's eyes fixed on Harry's wand with unexpected intensity. "May I examine it?" "I'd rather not," Harry said, tightening his grip. "It's calibrated specifically to my energy signature." This wasn't entirely a lie. His holly and phoenix feather wand was indeed matched to him specifically, though not in the way he implied. "Perhaps a practical demonstration instead," Principal Weems suggested, diffusing the tension. Professor Xavier placed a feather on the table before him. "Can you manipulate this object with your displacement ability?" Harry pointed his wand. "Wingardium Leviosa." The feather rose smoothly into the air, floating under his control. Basic first-year magic, but the faculty watched with varying degrees of interest. "Telekinesis," Professor Anubis noted. "Not uncommon among psychic outcasts." Harry moved to another simple spell. "Lumos." The wand tip illuminated brightly, then with a silent spell, he changed its color from white to blue to red. "Light manipulation," Professor Xavier observed. Again, within known parameters. Harry decided to try something more distinctive. "Expecto Patronum." The silver stag erupted from his wand, cantering around the room before dissolving. This earned genuine surprise from the faculty. "A spirit manifestation," breathed Professor Xavier. "Fully corporeal and sentient." "The same energy signature he used against the Void Walker," Wednesday noted. "His protective entity appears to have anti-void properties." Professor Thornhill's expression had shifted from suspicion to intense curiosity. "What else can you do with that wand, Mr. Potter?" Harry demonstrated a few more spells: Aguamenti to produce water, Reparo to fix a broken pencil, a simple transfiguration to turn a button into a beetle. Each demonstration brought more speculative murmurs from the faculty. "Fascinating," Principal Weems finally said. "Your abilities cross several outcast classifications. Psychic elements, transformative capabilities, elemental manipulation, most unusual. He doesn't fit neatly into your taxonomic system," Wednesday stated. "Perhaps a customized curriculum would be appropriate." Principal Weems considered this. "We could arrange specialized study. Professor Thornhill, your background in rare abilities might make you a suitable advisor for Mr. Potter." Harry noticed something flash across Professor Thornhill's face, eagerness quickly masked. "I'd be delighted to work with such a unique student." "Actually," Wednesday interrupted, "as Mr. Potter's cultural liaison, should oversee his integration. His abilities require contextualization within his original methodological framework." The professors exchanged glances. Principal Weems looked between Wednesday and Harry with calculation in her eyes. "Very well, Miss Adams. You may assist with Mr. Potter's transition. However, Professor Thornhill will provide faculty oversight." Harry sensed undercurrents he didn't fully understand, but Wednesday's slight stiffening beside him suggested she wasn't pleased with this compromise. "Now, Mr. Potter," Principal Weems continued, "about your background. You've been vague about your previous schooling." "It was similar to Nevermore," Harry said carefully. "A boarding school for people with abilities. My parents attended before me." "And they are?" Professor Anubis prompted. "Dead," Harry stated flatly. "Murdered when I was a baby." This silenced further questions about his family. Principal Weems nodded sympathetically. "I see. Well, Nevermore has a long tradition of providing sanctuary to those who need it. You may stay and study with us, under supervision until we better understand your unique situation." "Thank you," Harry said, genuinely grateful. "Miss Adams will help you establish a schedule and show you around campus." Principal Weems stood, signaling the meeting's end. "And Mr. Potter? Please refrain from any further, dimensional incidents." As they left the faculty meeting, Harry released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "That went better than expected." "It went exactly as calculated," Wednesday replied. "They're intrigued but cautious. Thornhill's interest is concerning, however." "You don't trust her?" I don't trust anyone, Wednesday stated matter-of-factly. But her expertise in rare abilities conveniently aligns with your arrival. And her reaction to your wand was notable. They descended the main staircase, passing students who openly stared and whispered. News of Harry's role in defeating the Void Walker had spread overnight, transforming him from mysterious intruder to celebrity, an uncomfortably familiar position. Where to now? Harry asked, ignoring the stairs. East Wing, Wednesday answered. Blackwood's department awaits. The East Wing's third floor had clearly been abandoned for decades. Dust coated the floors, and sheets covered furniture like ancient ghosts. Wednesday navigated with purpose, consulting the blueprint occasionally as they searched for Blackwood's laboratory. Here, she said finally, stopping before a heavy oak door with a tarnished brass plaque, Department of Interdimensional Studies, authorized personnel only. The door was locked, but a simple "Alohomra" from Harry solved that problem. Useful, Wednesday commented as the lock clicked open. Inside, they found a large laboratory frozen in time. Dust-covered equipment lined the walls, strange devices with crystals and dials, blackboards filled with faded equations, glass cases containing objects labeled in faded handwriting. At the center stood a massive circular platform surrounded by metal pylons. A dimensional gateway, Wednesday breathed, approaching the structure. Blackwood actually built one. Harry moved to a desk piled with journals and papers. These might tell us how he managed to integrate into this world. They began examining the abandoned lab, Wednesday methodically documenting the equipment while Harry leafed through Blackwood's notes. The journals were filled with dense theoretical calculations and observations about dimensional boundaries. Listen to this, Harry said, finding an entry from 1889. The transition between realities leaves a permanent mark on one's magical signature. I am no longer fully of my original world, nor entirely of this one. This liminal state has advantages. I can perceive weaknesses in the dimensional fabric invisible to natives of either reality. Wednesday joined him, reading over his shoulder. He's describing a hybrid state of existence. Your magical core may have undergone similar alteration during crossing. Harry turned more pages. Here's something about adaptation. Initial attempts to perform magic as I did in my home dimension proved inconsistent in this reality. The fundamental laws differ subtly. I found success by merging methodologies, using my original incantations but channeling through this world's ley line structures. That explains your successful spellcasting, Wednesday noted. You're unconsciously adapting your magical framework to Nevermore's energy patterns. They continued searching, finding more journals and equipment diagrams. A leather-bound book caught Harry's attention, Blackwood's personal diary rather than scientific notes. He mentions others, Harry said, scanning entries. Listen, met with Traveler Collins today. His transition 3 years ago was rougher than mine, arrived during a convergent storm and suffered memory fragmentation. Still, his knowledge of alchemical processes from his original dimension has proven invaluable to our research. So there were multiple travelers, Wednesday mused. A small community, perhaps. More than that, Harry continued reading. Blackwood established what he called the Dimensional Refugee Protocol. Procedures for helping travelers adapt, establishing legal identities, even methods for occasional communication with their home dimensions during convergence periods. Wednesday's eyes widened slightly. Communication between dimensions? That shouldn't be possible without reopening tiers. Harry pointed to a passage. The sympathetic resonance technique allows message transfer without physical crossing. During alignment periods, objects or messages from one's home dimension can be drawn through momentarily stabilized microtiers, too small for entities to pass through but sufficient for information exchange. Fascinating, Wednesday murmured, actually sounding impressed. Blackwood developed controlled, limited dimensional access points. Harry felt a surge of hope. If we could adapt this technique, I might be able to contact Hermione, my friend. Let her know I'm alive, maybe even clear my name. The dimensional barrier we reinforced would complicate matters, Wednesday cautioned. But theoretically possible, given proper alignment and equipment. They continued exploring, gradually assembling a clearer picture of Blackwood's work. The department had flourished for decades, helping multiple dimensional travelers adapt to Nevermore's reality. Then something changed. The unfortunate incident, Harry said, finding entries from 1931. Blackwood was attempting to create a stable, permanent gateway between dimensions. Something went catastrophically wrong. Wednesday studied the final equipment diagrams. He tried to expand a microtier into a traversable portal. The energy requirements would have been enormous. And dangerous, Harry added, reading the last entry. Council has voted to disband the department following the Jenkins tragedy. Perhaps they are right to fear what might come through from other dimensions. Some doors are best left closed, or at least carefully monitored. My life's work ends, but the knowledge remains, sealed away until needed again. Jenkins, Wednesday repeated. There's no record of a student or faculty member by that name during that period. Harry closed the journal. Whatever happened was bad enough they erased him from school records. A noise in the corridor outside froze them both. Footsteps approaching, then stopping outside the door. Harry quickly shoved the journal inside his uniform jacket as Wednesday moved to a position beside the door. The knob turned slowly. As the door began to open, Wednesday reached out and yanked it wide, revealing Professor Thornhill standing in the hallway. Miss Adams, she said, recovering quickly from her surprise. Mr. Potter. What brings you to this abandoned section of campus? Historical research, Wednesday replied without hesitation. Potter needs context for Nevermore's traditions. Professor Thornhill's eyes scanned the laboratory, lingering on the dimensional gateway platform. In the old interdimensional studies department. Curious choice for orientation. Actually, it was my idea, Harry interjected. I saw it mentioned in a school history book and was curious. Were you? Thornhill stepped into the lab, running her finger along a dust-covered console. This department has been closed for nearly a century. Few students even know it existed. I'm not most students, Wednesday stated flatly. Indeed you're not, Miss Adams. Thornhill turned her attention to Harry. And neither are you, Mr. Potter. Your demonstration this morning was illuminating. I've never seen abilities quite like yours. They're not that special, Harry said modestly, uncomfortable with her scrutiny. On the contrary. Thornhill moved closer to the central platform. The precision of your manipulations, channeled through that curious wand. It's unlike any outcast methodology I've studied. Wednesday shifted subtly, placing herself between Harry and Thornhill. We should proceed to class, Potter. The Historical Society meeting begins shortly. Thornhill smiled thinly. There is no Historical Society meeting today, Miss Adams. Perhaps you meant tomorrow? My mistake, Wednesday replied, expression unchanged. Then we have independent study to complete. As they moved toward the door, Thornhill called after them. Mr. Potter, I'd still be very interested in examining your wand sometime. As your faculty advisor, understanding your focus tool would help me develop an appropriate curriculum. Maybe later, Harry said noncommittally. Still getting settled. Once safely away from the East Wing, Harry turned to Wednesday. She followed us there. Why? Unclear, Wednesday said, frowning slightly. But her interest in your wand and the dimensional laboratory suggests connections worth investigating. You think she knows what the department was really for? Possibly. Thornhill specializes in rare magical phenomena. The question is why she's showing interest now, after your arrival specifically. They descended the main staircase, heading toward the library. Students parted before them, still whispering and staring. This feels weirdly familiar, Harry muttered. Being the center of attention for all the wrong reasons. Fame is tedious, Wednesday agreed. particularly when based on incomplete information and speculation. They found a secluded table in the library's back corner. Harry pulled out Blackwood's journal, and they began searching for information about the sympathetic resonance technique for cross-dimensional communication. Here, Harry said eventually. Detailed instructions for establishing contact during alignment periods. We'd need specialized equipment, though. Some of which still exists in the laboratory, Wednesday noted. The rest could be adapted from current technology. Eugene might help with the engineering aspects. Harry looked up as a shadow fell across their table. The beautiful Siren girl from combat class stood there, smiling with practiced charm. You must be Harry Potter, she said, voice melodious even in ordinary speech. I'm Bianca Barkley. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. Wednesday didn't look up. He's busy, Bianca. I wasn't talking to you, Wednesday. Bianca's smile remained fixed, but her eyes cooled. She returned her attention to Harry. I'm hosting a gathering at the boathouse tonight. As our newest celebrity, you should attend. Harry felt a strange pull toward her, not exactly magical compulsion but something subtly persuasive in her voice and presence. Thanks, but I've got plans, he said firmly. Bianca's smile faltered briefly. Are you sure? Everyone who matters will be there. A chance to meet the right kind of students at Nevermore. As opposed to the wrong kind. Wednesday finally looked up, expression deadpan. Bianca ignored her. Think about it, Harry. My gatherings can open doors for new students. Even, unusual ones. After she sauntered away, Harry shook his head slightly. Is that Siren magic? It felt like a very mild imperious. Siren glamour, Wednesday confirmed. Social manipulation is Bianca's specialty. She collects influential or unusual students to enhance her status. And now she wants to collect me. You're this semester's shiny new artifact. Wednesday returned to the journal. Defeating an interdimensional predator elevated your social capital considerably. Great, Harry muttered. Just what I needed. They continued research until dinner, identifying key components needed for Blackwood's communication technique. As they headed to the dining hall, they passed the infirmary, where Harry paused. I want to check on Jericho, he said. See if he's recovering. Wednesday nodded, and they entered the medical wing. A nurse directed them to a private room where the partially corporeal student lay in bed, his edges still blurry but more substantial than when they'd encountered him in the forest. How is he? Harry asked the nurse. Stabilizing, she answered. His physical form is slowly reintegrating. Professor Xavier has been working with him hourly. Jericho's eyes opened at their voices, more defined now, dark brown and alert. Potter, he said, voice stronger than before. You sealed it. Harry nodded. The tears closed. The Void Walker's gone. Not gone, Jericho corrected, struggling to sit up. Banished temporarily. It'll find another way through eventually. Entities like that always do. Wednesday stepped closer. You've encountered it before. Jericho nodded weakly. In my dimension, they called them hollows, creatures that exist between realities, feeding on those who cross boundaries. Dimensional refugees like me are their preferred prey. How many others like you are there? Harry asked. Other travelers at Nevermore? There were 3 of us, Jericho said quietly. Now just me, and you. The others vanished months ago. I thought they'd left, but now I wonder if the Void Walker found them first. Harry and Wednesday exchanged glances. This complicated matters. Jericho, Wednesday said, we found records of earlier dimensional travelers at Nevermore. A department dedicated to helping them adapt. Did you know about this? He shook his head. I stumbled through by accident during a lightning storm. Been hiding what I am ever since. Figured Nevermore was safe because of all the different types of outcasts. No one looks too closely at your oddities here. We're trying to establish a communication method back to my dimension, Harry explained. Using something called sympathetic resonance. Have you heard of it? No, but... Jericho's form rippled with excitement. You think it could work? Contact other dimensions without opening tears? Theoretically, Wednesday said. We'd need equipment, precise calculations, and proper alignment periods. The spring equinox is coming, Jericho noted. That's a natural alignment period. Enhanced by the blue moon 3 days after. Wednesday's eyes widened fractionally. A blue moon during equinox week? That's a rare conjunction. Happens once every 87 years, Jericho confirmed. Perfect for dimensional work. Harry felt hope rising. So we could potentially establish contact during that period? If we had the right equipment, Jericho said. But be careful who knows about this. Someone at Nevermore has been very interested in dimensional crossings. They've been asking questions, monitoring the few of us they suspected. Who? Harry pressed. Jericho shook his head. Don't know for sure. But they have access to restricted areas, faculty privileges. Wednesday's expression darkened. We should go. You need rest. As they left, Harry whispered, You're thinking Thornhill. Her interest in the laboratory was not coincidental, Wednesday replied. And her expertise in rare abilities provides perfect cover for dimensional research. But what would she want with dimensional travelers? Unknown. But historically, interest in crossing dimensional boundaries rarely stems from benevolent motives. They reached the dining hall, finding it buzzing with students. Conversations paused briefly as they entered, then resumed with increased intensity. Harry was uncomfortably reminded of Hogwarts after particularly dramatic Daily Prophet articles. Ignore them, Wednesday advised as they collected their food. Nevermore students bore easily. Some new drama will distract them eventually. They joined Enid at a table, where the colorful werewolf was practically vibrating with excitement. There you are, she exclaimed. Everyone's talking about how you two are investigating something super secret. Is it true you broke into a restricted section of the East Wing? Wednesday stared at her flatly. Your information network is disturbingly efficient. So it's true. Enid grinned. What were you looking for? Buried treasure? Secret spells? Forbidden knowledge? Historical records, Harry said, not entirely untruthfully. Just getting acquainted with Nevermore's past. Boring, Enid pouted. I was hoping for something juicier for my blog. Your disappointment sustains me, Wednesday deadpanned, causing Harry to snort into his drink. Enid rolled her eyes. Anyway, you're both invited to Thing tonight. Thing? Harry asked, confused. Thursday night investigation night group, Enid explained. We study unexplained phenomena at Nevermore. After what happened with the Void Walker, everyone wants to hear your first-hand account. Pass, Wednesday said immediately. Come on, Wednesday. You're literally part of a historical event. The first dimensional incursion in decades. Enid turned pleading eyes to Harry. You'll come, right? Harry glanced at Wednesday, who minutely shook her head. Maybe another time, he said diplomatically. Enid sighed dramatically. Fine, be mysterious loners together. But Eugene wants to talk to you both. He's been analyzing the energy readings from the ritual circle and found something weird. This caught their attention. What kind of weird? Wednesday asked. He wouldn't say, just that it's dimensionally significant or something science-y like that. Enid shrugged. He's in the tech lab now if you want to find him. Wednesday stood immediately. We'll do that. As they headed for the tech lab, Harry pondered the growing complexities of their situation. If Thornhill is investigating dimensional travelers, and there were others who disappeared before I arrived. Then your arrival may have accelerated whatever agenda she's pursuing, Wednesday finished. We need more information before confronting her directly. The tech lab was Nevermore's concession to modernity, a space filled with computers, 3D printers, and various electronic equipment. Eugene hunched over a complex array of sensors, his thick glasses reflecting scrolling data. Eugene, Wednesday announced their presence. Enid said you found something. He jumped, nearly knocking over equipment. Wednesday. Harry. Yes, I did. He pushed his glasses up nervously. So I've been monitoring the ritual site since the incident, right? Basic energy readings, dimensional stability metrics, the usual. And? Wednesday prompted when he paused to breathe. And there's still activity, Eugene said, lowering his voice. Not a tear, exactly, but what I'd call a dimensional bruise. The barrier is closed but thinner there than anywhere else on campus. How thin? Harry asked. Eugene pulled up graphs on his computer. Thin enough that with the right equipment, you could potentially establish limited contact through it. Not physical crossing, but maybe energy patterns, signals. Wednesday and Harry exchanged meaningful glances. Like sympathetic resonance, Harry suggested. Eugene blinked in surprise. Exactly like that. How did you know about sympathetic resonance theory? It's super obscure. We found Blackwood's research, Wednesday explained. He developed techniques for limited cross-dimensional communication. Percival Blackwood. Eugene's eyes widened. The dimensional theorist. His work is legendary in fringe science circles. Most people think it's just speculation, but if you found actual research notes. We need equipment, Wednesday cut to the point. Components to build a sympathetic resonance device according to Blackwood's specifications. Eugene scrolled through the designs Harry pulled from his jacket. This is amazing. Some of this is outdated, but I could adapt it with modern technology. The crystalline array would be the hardest part. Blackwood's original equipment is still in the East Wing laboratory, Harry told him. Some of it might be salvageable. We'd need access without Thornhill discovering our activities, Wednesday cautioned. Eugene looked up sharply. Professor Thornhill? What's she got to do with this? Wednesday fixed him with a penetrating stare. Have you noticed her taking interest in dimensional phenomena? Or in students with unusual abilities? Well, yeah, Eugene said slowly. That's her specialty. She's always collecting data on unique outcast manifestations. She's been running this extra credit research group for students with rare abilities. What kind of research? Harry asked. Energy pattern analysis, magical core mapping, stuff like that. Eugene shrugged. She's been especially interested in Ajax's psychic visions lately, since they sometimes show other timelines or dimensions. Another piece clicked into place. Wednesday's eyes narrowed. And she showed immediate interest in Harry's abilities. We need to move quickly, Harry decided. The equinox is coming, followed by the blue moon. If we're going to attempt contact with my dimension, that's our window. Eugene nodded enthusiastically. I can help build the device. This is actual, legitimate dimensional science. Discretion is essential, Wednesday warned. No social media, no thing meetings, no discussion outside our immediate group. My lips are sealed, Eugene promised, miming a zipper across his mouth. But we'll need access to that lab to salvage Blackwood's equipment. Leave that to us, Harry said. Focus on identifying what modern components we'll need. As they left the tech lab, Harry felt a renewed sense of purpose. If they could establish contact with the wizarding world, he might be able to prove his innocence, or at least understand who had framed him and why. Wednesday seemed to read his thoughts. Even if we succeed, returning physically would be impossible without creating another tear. I know, Harry said. But clearing my name would still mean something, even if I can't go back. Your attachment to your previous reality is understandable but potentially problematic, Wednesday observed. Emotional investment may cloud judgment. Harry stopped walking. Of course I'm emotionally invested. My friends think I'm a murderer. Someone set me up, and I need to know why. Wednesday studied him for a moment. Your situation parallels mine in unexpected ways. What do you mean? She hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. I also know what it's like when others misinterpret your actions and intentions. When they fear what they don't understand. Coming from Wednesday, this was practically a heart-to-heart conversation. Harry recognized the significance of her sharing even this small connection. Thanks, he said simply. For helping with this. She nodded once. Our alliance remains mutually beneficial. Now, we need to plan our equipment retrieval from the laboratory. Late that night, Harry and Wednesday crept through the deserted corridors of the East Wing. They'd waited until well after curfew, when even faculty patrols had ended. Harry had offered his invisibility cloak, which had thankfully come with him during the dimensional crossing, but Wednesday had declined. Invisibility is useful, but knowledge of patrol schedules is more reliable, she'd explained, producing a detailed timetable of faculty movements. They reached the abandoned department without incident. Harry unlocked the door with a whispered "Alohamra," and they slipped inside. We need the crystalline array, the resonance calibrator, and the sympathetic focus lens, Wednesday listed, consulting Blackwood's diagrams. Eugene can fabricate the rest. They worked methodically, carefully disconnecting decades-old equipment. Harry marveled at the intricate designs. Blackwood had been brilliant, creating technology that seemed to blend magic and science in ways even the wizarding world rarely attempted. This reminds me of the Department of Mysteries, Harry commented as he carefully packed components into a bag. They studied similar concepts. Your dimension has organized research into interdimensional travel? Wednesday asked, looking up from a delicate crystal arrangement. Sort of. They study all kinds of magical mysteries, time, space, death, thought. I only saw it briefly, during a... Harry hesitated, memories of the battle against Death Eaters and Sirius's fall through the veil flashing back. During a fight. Wednesday seemed to sense the weight of those memories. Time concepts likely differ between our dimensions. Their research might be valuable context for our work. Harry nodded, grateful for her practical focus rather than pressing for emotional details. The department had something called a veil, a passage to somewhere else. Death, maybe. People went through and never returned. A permanent one-way dimensional portal, Wednesday mused. Fascinating and troubling. They continued working until they'd collected the essential components. As Wednesday carefully packed the final piece, a crystalline lens the size of a saucer, a noise outside the lab froze them both. Footsteps. Approaching slowly. Harry quickly drew the invisibility cloak from his bag, throwing it over both of them just as the door handle turned. They pressed against the wall, barely breathing, as the door swung open. Professor Thornhill entered, a witchlight hovering above her palm. She moved purposefully to the central platform, examining it closely. From their hiding spot, Harry and Wednesday watched as she removed a small device from her pocket and placed it on the platform. The device emitted a soft pulse of energy that spread across the metal surface. Energy signature still present, she murmured to herself. Faint but detectable. She moved around the laboratory, examining equipment, including empty spaces where they'd removed components. Her eyes narrowed. Someone's been here, she said softly. Recently. From her pocket, she withdrew a vial of shimmering liquid. She uncorked it and sprinkled drops in a circle around herself. The droplets glowed briefly before spreading into a fine mist that filled the room. Under the cloak, Harry tensed. If that was some kind of revealing spell. The mist swirled, then coalesced into two faint, glowing humanoid shapes near the wall, precisely where they had been working minutes earlier. Residual energy signatures, Thornhill observed, studying the shapes. Two people. One. Her eyes widened, one with an interdimensional aura. Potter. She looked around the room more carefully now. What are you up to, Mr. Potter? And who's helping you? The second glowing shape was smaller, suggesting Wednesday. Thornhill circled it thoughtfully. Miss Adams, I presume. Always where you shouldn't be. Harry felt Wednesday tense beside him. Thornhill continued her investigation, noting the missing equipment with increasingly evident frustration. The crystalline array, the focus lens, you're attempting to build a resonator. She laughed softly. Ambitious, but futile without the activation key. She moved to a section of wall that appeared solid, pressing her palm against it. The wall shimmered and revealed a hidden compartment. From it, she removed a small, ornate box. Blackwood's key, she murmured, opening the box to reveal a crystal shard that glowed with inner light. The final component your little scavenger hunt missed. Thornhill pocketed the box, then swept her hand through the air, dispelling the mist and glowing shapes. With a final survey of the room, she extinguished her witch light and departed, locking the door behind her. Harry and Wednesday remained motionless for several minutes, ensuring she was truly gone before removing the cloak. That complicates matters, Wednesday stated flatly. She knows what we're trying to do, Harry agreed. And she has the activation key we need. More concerning is her ability to detect interdimensional energy signatures, Wednesday noted. She's been studying dimensional travel longer than we realized. Harry hefted their bag of components. At least we got most of what we needed. We'll have to figure out the key situation later. They slipped out of the laboratory and made their way back through the secret passages. As they navigated the narrow corridors, Harry considered their next steps. We need to accelerate our timeline, he said. If Thornhill knows we're building a resonator, she might try to stop us. Or use it herself, Wednesday added. Her interest seems less academic and more practical. She wants dimensional access. But for what purpose? Unknown. But she referred to the missing students as the others. She's been tracking dimensional travelers systematically. They reached Wednesday's hidden study without incident, storing the components in a concealed cabinet. We should inform Eugene about the key, Harry said. Maybe he can create a workaround. Possibly. Blackwood's design might allow for adaptation. Wednesday checked her watch. It's nearly dawn. We should return to our dormitories before absence is noted. As they prepared to separate at a corridor junction, Harry hesitated. Wednesday, do you trust anyone at Nevermore? Besides me? She considered the question with her usual seriousness. Trust is a gradient rather than a binary state. Enid is predictable in her chaotic enthusiasm. Eugene's scientific curiosity outweighs his social anxieties. Principal Weems prioritizes Nevermore's stability above individual concerns. That's not really answering the question, Harry noted. Trust requires vulnerability, Wednesday said simply. I prefer self-reliance. Yet you're helping me. As I said, mutual benefit. She tilted her head slightly. Though your magical methodology is intriguing enough to justify certain calculated risks. Coming from Wednesday, Harry suspected this was high praise. See you at breakfast, then, he said with a small smile. She nodded once before disappearing down the corridor, silent as a shadow. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Between regular classes, where Harry struggled to adapt wizarding knowledge to Nevermore's curriculum, they worked secretly with Eugene to assemble Blackwood's resonance device. The theory is sound, Eugene explained, connecting delicate crystalline components in Wednesday's hidden study. Dimensional barriers aren't completely solid, they're more like membranes with varying thickness. During alignment periods like the equinox, the membrane thins naturally. And the blue moon enhances this effect? Harry asked, carefully cleaning century-old connectors. Exactly. The double lunar energy creates harmonic resonance with the barrier's natural frequency. Eugene adjusted his glasses excitedly. Blackwood's device essentially creates a controlled vibration that matches this frequency, allowing information, though not physical matter, to pass through. Wednesday examined the partially assembled device critically. The activation key remains problematic. Without it, the crystalline array can't achieve proper alignment. Eugene nodded glumly. I've been trying to replicate its function, but without seeing the original. We need to get that key from Thornhill, Harry said. Inadvisable, Wednesday countered. Direct confrontation would alert her to our progress. Strategic patience is required. Harry was about to argue when Enid burst into the study, breathless and wide-eyed. There you all are. Have you heard? Another student's gone missing. They froze. Who? Wednesday demanded. Divina Crow, sophomore, psychic department. No one's seen her since last night. Enid's usual exuberance was replaced with genuine worry. Principal Weems has ordered a full campus lockdown. They think it might be related to what happened to Jericho. Harry and Wednesday exchanged alarmed glances. Another dimensional traveler? Was Divina unusual in any way? Harry asked carefully. Enid nodded. Super powerful precognitive abilities. Could see potential futures more clearly than anyone else at Nevermore. Professor Thornhill had her in that special research group. Another connection to Thornhill. The pattern was becoming clearer. When was she last seen? Wednesday asked. After her evening session with Thornhill's research group. She told her roommate she was going to the library, but never returned to the dorm. Enid looked between them. Why are you all being so secretive lately? And what's that thing you're building? Science project, Eugene said quickly. For extra credit in dimensional theory class. Enid frowned. There is no dimensional theory class. Independent study, Wednesday amended smoothly. Potter's unique abilities require specialized curriculum. Though clearly skeptical, Enid didn't push further. Whatever. Everyone's required in the Great Hall for Principal Weems' announcement. Like, now. They reluctantly abandoned their work, covering the partially assembled device before heading to the Great Hall. The atmosphere was tense, students clustered in worried groups, faculty stationed at all exits. Principal Weems stood at the front, expression grave. Students of Nevermore, I must inform you of a serious situation. Divina Crow has disappeared from campus under concerning circumstances. This follows the recent attack on Jericho Vane, suggesting a pattern that demands immediate security measures. She outlined new restrictions, curfews, buddy systems, restricted access to remote areas of campus. As she spoke, Harry noticed Professor Thornhill watching the crowd with calculation rather than concern. Something's not right, he whispered to Wednesday. Divina disappears after meeting with Thornhill's research group, and now Thornhill's acting strange. Correlation doesn't prove causation, Wednesday cautioned. But the timing is suspicious. Principal Weems concluded her announcement, faculty will conduct a thorough search of campus. All students are to remain in dormitories or supervised common areas until further notice. As they filed out of the Great Hall, Harry felt a hand on his shoulder. Professor Thornhill smiled at him with manufactured warmth. Mr. Potter, a word? In my office, please. Wednesday moved to follow, but Thornhill shook her head. Just Mr. Potter. Academic matters, Miss Adams. Harry glanced at Wednesday, who gave him an almost imperceptible nod. They had discussed this possibility. If Thornhill approached him directly, it might be an opportunity to gather information. I'll meet you in the library later, he told Wednesday, hoping she understood his meaning. If he didn't return soon, look for him there. Thornhill's office was located in the newer science wing, a striking contrast to Nevermore's Gothic architecture. Modern equipment lined the walls, alongside display cases of unusual artifacts and specimens. A large whiteboard was covered with complex equations that Harry recognized as dimensional boundary calculations, similar to what they'd found in Blackwood's notes. "Please, sit," Thornhill gestured to a chair opposite her desk. "Tea?" "No, thanks," Harry replied, remaining alert. Thornhill studied him with undisguised curiosity. "You continue to be a fascinating addition to Nevermore, Mr. Potter. Your abilities defy conventional outcast classifications." "I've always been a bit of an oddball," Harry said carefully. "Indeed." Thornhill leaned forward. "Let's be direct. You're not simply a teleporter with unusual abilities. Your energy signature is distinctly non-native to our dimensional frequency." Harry maintained a neutral expression. "I'm not sure what you mean, Professor." "Please," she scoffed lightly. "I've studied dimensional phenomena for decades. I know a traveler when I see one. Just as I recognized Jericho Vane, and Divina Crow." This confirmation stunned Harry. "Divina was a dimensional traveler too." "Very perceptive of you to use past tense," Thornhill noted with a slight smile. "Yes, she was. As were two others before her. All with unique abilities from their native dimensions." "What happened to them?" Harry asked, tension building. Thornhill rose, moving to a locked cabinet. "They contributed to greater understanding. As I hope you will." She removed a small case, opening it to reveal the crystal activation key they had seen her take from the hidden compartment. "You've been busy in Blackwood's laboratory," she continued. "Gathering components for a sympathetic resonance device. An admirable effort, but fundamentally flawed without this." She held up the key, letting it catch the light. "Blackwood's masterpiece, a crystallized fragment of actual dimensional boundary. The only substance that can properly attune a resonance device." "How do you know so much about Blackwood's work?" Harry asked, playing for time while assessing escape options. His wand was in his sleeve, accessible with a quick movement. "I've spent my career continuing what Blackwood began," Thornhill explained, pacing slowly. "He was visionary but limited by the technology of his time. And by the Nevermore Council's fears after the Jenkins incident." "What exactly happened to Jenkins?" Harry pressed. "Partial dimensional crossing," Thornhill said matter-of-factly. "Blackwood attempted to bring someone back from another dimension. The subject arrived, incompletely. Quite messily, in fact." Harry felt cold dread spreading through him. "And Divina? The others? Were they your experiments too?" Thornhill's expression hardened. "They were volunteers for scientific advancement. The potential of cross-dimensional energy is limitless, power beyond what single-dimensional magic can achieve." "They didn't disappear," Harry realized with horror. "You did something to them." "I merely harvested what made them unique," Thornhill corrected. "Their dimensional energy, their native magical signatures. Unfortunately, the process isn't yet refined enough for subjects to survive intact." Harry stood abruptly. "You're killing them. Draining their essence." "A crude characterization," Thornhill sighed. "I prefer to think of it as dimensional energy transfer. Their unique signatures enable my research to progress." She moved closer, studying Harry with clinical interest. "Your signature is particularly fascinating. Not simply from another dimension, but carrying traces of a powerful magical bond. Something dark, yet paradoxically protective." Harry's scar tingled uncomfortably. She was sensing his connection to Voldemort, a connection that shouldn't exist in this dimension, yet somehow persisted. "I'm not interested in being your next experiment," Harry stated firmly, hand moving toward his wand. "Oh, I think you are," Thornhill smiled, pressing a button on her desk. "You want to contact your home dimension, don't you? Clear your name, perhaps. I can help you do that, with my expertise and this key." The offer was tempting, but Harry recognized the manipulation. "And in return? A small sample of your dimensional energy. Painless, I assure you." Like it was painless for Divina. And Jericho? Jericho was, unfortunate, Thornhill admitted. The Void Walker interfered with my collection process. But you drove it away. Your energy could complete my work. Harry's fingers closed around his wand. Where's Divina now? Thornhill gestured to a door at the back of her office. In my private laboratory. The extraction process takes time to complete properly. That was all Harry needed to hear. With practiced speed, he drew his wand. Stupefy. Thornhill was faster than he expected. She deflected the spell with a gesture, sending it crashing into a shelf of equipment. Impressive reflexes, she noted calmly. But predictable. She pressed another button on her desk. Metal shutters slammed down over the windows and doors. From vents in the ceiling, a pale mist began pouring into the room. A simple sedative compound, Thornhill explained. Effective on even the most unusual metabolisms. Harry tried for the door anyway. Alohomora. The spell hit the metal shutter but fizzled ineffectively. Bombarda. Again, no effect. The room is warded against magic, Thornhill said, pulling on a small mask from her pocket. Designed specifically to contain outcast abilities. The mist was already making Harry's limbs feel heavy. He fought against the growing drowsiness, casting spell after spell at different points in the room. Your persistence is admirable, Thornhill commented, but futile. In minutes, you'll be unconscious, and I can begin the extraction process. Don't worry, I've refined it considerably since my earlier subjects. You might even survive partially intact. Harry's vision began to blur, but desperation sharpened his focus. If magic wouldn't work directly against the room's defenses, perhaps indirectly. Wingardium Leviosa, he managed, pointing not at the doors or windows, but at a large piece of equipment behind Thornhill. The heavy device rose shakily, then crashed into a series of chemical containers on a nearby shelf. Glass shattered, liquids mixed. Immediately, alarms began blaring as the chemicals reacted violently, producing thick smoke and sparks. No! Thornhill cried, rushing to contain the reaction. Those compounds are unstable. The distraction gave Harry the moment he needed. Accio mask, he gasped, focusing his remaining strength. Thornhill's protective mask flew from her face toward Harry, who caught it and quickly put it on. The filter allowed him to breathe without inhaling more of the sedative mist, though he was already dangerously lightheaded. The chemical reaction was spreading, creating more smoke and now actual flames. The lab's automatic fire suppression system activated, spraying fire-retardant foam from ceiling nozzles. In the chaos, the building's main alarm system triggered, and the security shutters automatically retracted, emergency protocols overriding Thornhill's lockdown. Harry staggered toward the door, still fighting the sedative's effects. Thornhill, realizing her quarry was escaping, abandoned the chemical fire and lunged for him. You're not leaving, she snarled, grabbing his arm. With the last of his strength, Harry pointed his wand. Flipendo. The knockback jinx hit Thornhill squarely in the chest, sending her flying back into the spreading chemical fire. She screamed as caustic foam covered her, the mixture of chemicals and fire suppressant creating a sticky, burning mess. Harry stumbled into the corridor, where students and faculty were already evacuating due to the alarms. He pushed through the crowd, searching desperately for Wednesday. The sedative was still affecting him, making his movements clumsy and vision swimmy. Potter. Wednesday appeared beside him, taking in his condition instantly. Thornhill. He nodded weakly. Lab, back of office. Divina. Wednesday understood immediately. As faculty focused on the chemical fire in Thornhill's office, she guided Harry around the corner, then doubled back alone. Harry leaned against the wall, fighting to stay conscious, trusting Wednesday to investigate. Minutes later, though it felt like hours to Harry's sedative-addled mind, Wednesday returned, supporting a half-conscious girl with copper-colored hair. Divina was pale and weak, her edges slightly blurred like Jericho's had been. Found her, Wednesday stated simply. Extraction chamber. Partially processed. Thornhill. Harry managed. In custody. The fire exposed her laboratory. Principal Weems has called outcast authorities. Relief washed through Harry, but the sedative was finally overcoming his resistance. As his knees buckled, Wednesday caught him with surprising strength. Infirmary, she decided, supporting both Harry and Divina through the chaos of the evacuation. The last thing Harry remembered before unconsciousness claimed him was Wednesday's voice, uncharacteristically gentle. "You did adequately, Potter. Rest now." Harry woke in the infirmary, head pounding but mind clear. Sunlight streamed through windows, suggesting he'd been unconscious for hours. As his vision focused, he found Wednesday sitting beside his bed, reading Blackwood's journal. "Welcome back," she said without looking up. "Approximately 18 hours have elapsed since your confrontation with Thornhill." Harry sat up gingerly. "Divina?" "Recovering," Wednesday reported. Approximately 63% of her dimensional energy had been extracted. Professor Xavier believes she'll recover most of her abilities given time. "And Thornhill?" "In custody." Her laboratory contained evidence of extensive dimensional experimentation, including remnants of the previous victims. She was harvesting dimensional energy to power a large-scale crossing attempt. Harry absorbed this grimly. "She mentioned wanting to complete her work using my energy. Was she trying to create a permanent gateway?" "Worse," Wednesday replied. "Based on equipment configurations, she was attempting to merge dimensional frequencies, essentially collapsing the barriers between specific realities. The implications were staggering. That would be catastrophic." "Extinction level," Wednesday agreed. "Dimensional frequencies are incompatible by nature. Forced merger would create reality fractures, cascading failures across multiple dimensions." Harry shuddered, remembering the chaotic magic that had brought him here accidentally. Deliberately manipulating such forces on a larger scale would be devastating. "The good news," Wednesday continued, "is that Thornhill's arrest provided unexpected advantages." She reached into her bag and withdrew a familiar crystal, the activation key. Harry's eyes widened. "How did you get that?" "Confiscated evidence," Wednesday stated. "I convinced Principal Weems it should be secured in the Addams family vault for safekeeping." "And she agreed?" "The Addams family has a long history of containing dangerous artifacts. Also, I may have implied the key would be locked away rather than used to complete Blackwood's device." Harry couldn't help but smile. "You lied to the principal." "I omitted certain intentions," Wednesday corrected primly. "A strategic information asymmetry." Harry laughed, wincing as his head protested. "So we can complete the resonator now?" "Eugene is finalizing assembly. The equinox begins tomorrow night, with peak alignment during the blue moon 3 days later." Wednesday finally met his eyes directly. "We'll have one opportunity to establish contact with your dimension." The reality of this struck Harry fully. After everything, the escape from Hogwarts, the dimensional crossing, the battles at Nevermore, he would finally have a chance to reach back to his world. Not to return physically, but perhaps to set things right from afar. "Thank you," he said simply. "For everything." Wednesday gave a slight nod, the barest acknowledgement of their growing alliance. "The dimensional resonator represents significant scientific advancement. Your participation is valuable research data." Harry recognized this as her way of maintaining emotional distance while still helping him. "Of course. Purely scientific interest." A flicker of something, perhaps amusement, crossed her face before disappearing. "Principal Weems wishes to see you when you're recovered. The faculty is reassessing your status following the Thornhill incident." "Am I in trouble for destroying her lab?" "On the contrary. Exposing a faculty member conducting unethical experimentation on students has elevated your standing considerably." Wednesday checked her watch. Your timely awakening is convenient. The meeting is scheduled for noon. Principal Weem's office felt different this time, less intimidating, more welcoming. The principal herself greeted Harry with unexpected warmth, gesturing to a comfortable chair. Mr. Potter, I'm relieved to see you recovered. Dr. Kinbote says the sedative has fully cleared your system. Harry nodded. I feel much better, thank you. Good. Principal Weems sat behind her desk, expression turning serious. I owe you an apology, Mr. Potter. Professor Thornhill's activities occurred under my watch. Her targeting of dimensional travelers, including yourself, represents a grave failure of Nevermore's protective mission. You couldn't have known, Harry said, genuinely not blaming her. Perhaps not specifically, but there were signs I should have recognized. She sighed. Professor Thornhill's obsession with rare abilities, her selective research groups, students with unusual backgrounds disappearing. I allowed her academic reputation to blind me to warning signs. Harry understood the weight of such responsibility, thinking of Dumbledore and the signs he too had sometimes missed. What happens now? He asked. Professor Thornhill faces charges from the Outcast Authority. Her research has been confiscated, her laboratory sealed. Principal Weems leaned forward. As for you, Mr. Potter, the faculty has unanimously voted to offer you permanent student status at Nevermore Academy. Harry blinked in surprise. Even knowing I'm from another dimension? Especially knowing that, Principal Weems smiled slightly. Nevermore was founded as a haven for those who don't belong elsewhere. Your dimensional origin simply makes you a more extreme case of our typical student. The offer touched Harry deeply. After feeling like an outsider for so long, at the Dursleys, sometimes even at Hogwarts, and then as a fugitive, being explicitly welcomed was powerful. Thank you, he said sincerely. I accept. Excellent, Principal Weems nodded. Miss Adams has volunteered to continue as your liaison, helping you adjust to Nevermore's curriculum. Given your unique background, we'll develop a specialized educational program. Harry suspected Wednesday's volunteering had more to do with maintaining access to him as a research subject, but he appreciated it nonetheless. There's one more matter, Principal Weems continued. During her questioning, Professor Thornhill mentioned you were attempting to construct a sympathetic resonance device to contact your home dimension. Harry tensed, but Principal Weems raised a hand reassuringly. Relax, Mr. Potter. I'm not prohibiting it. In fact, I'm offering faculty support. Professor Xavier has extensive experience with cross-dimensional consciousness techniques that might enhance your efforts. This was unexpected. You're not worried about dimensional tiers reopening? According to historical records, sympathetic resonance doesn't create tiers, merely allows limited information transfer during natural alignment periods. She smiled at his surprise. I've been reviewing Blackwood's archived research since the incident. Fascinating work, centuries ahead of its time. Harry felt a weight lift from his shoulders. With official support, their chances of successful contact improved significantly. There is one condition, Principal Weems added. Whatever you learn from your home dimension stays confidential to a small group. Dimensional knowledge can be dangerous in the wrong hands, as Professor Thornhill demonstrated. Agreed, Harry said immediately. Thank you for understanding how important this is to me. As he left the office, Harry found Wednesday waiting in the corridor, expression unreadable as usual. Successful meeting, she inquired. Very, Harry confirmed. Principal Weems is supporting our resonance project. With faculty help. Interesting, Wednesday mused as they walked. Her strategic calculus has shifted. She now views dimensional research as less threatening than allowing it to continue unsupervised. Or maybe she just wants to help, Harry suggested. Wednesday gave him a flat look that clearly communicated her skepticism of purely altruistic motives. When can we test the resonator? Harry asked, changing the subject. Eugene is installing the activation key now. Initial calibration can begin tonight, with preliminary tests tomorrow as the equinox begins. Wednesday checked her ever-present notebook. The alignment reaches optimal conditions during the blue moon, as Jericho predicted. Speaking of Jericho, how is he doing? Improved. Approximately 87% corporeal now. He's assisting with harmonic frequency calculations for the resonator. They reached the dormitory, where students greeted Harry with newfound respect. The story of how he'd exposed Thornhill and rescued Divina had spread throughout Nevermore, elevating his status from curious outsider to something approaching hero. Potter. Feeling better? Enid bounded over, hair cycling through excited color changes. Everyone's talking about how you fought Professor Thornhill. Is it true you made her lab explode? Chemical accident, Harry corrected, uncomfortable with the attention. So modest, Enid grinned. Anyway, Bianca's party got cancelled with all the lockdowns, but she's telling everyone you're personally invited to the rescheduled version next week. Wednesday made a small noise that might have been discussed. Bianca's social opportunism is predictably transparent. She just recognizes Harry's upgraded status, Enid defended. From mysterious new kid to dimensional hero in 1 week, that's gotta be a Nevermore record. Harry shook his head. I'm not a hero, Enid. I just did what anyone would do. Statistical improbability, Wednesday countered. Most people prioritize self-preservation over justice. Your willingness to confront Thornhill despite obvious personal risk represents significant deviation from standard behavioral patterns. Coming from Wednesday, this was extraordinary praise. Harry felt oddly touched. Thanks, he said simply. But I couldn't have done it without our alliance. Wednesday nodded slightly. Mutual advantage continues. Enid looked between them, eyebrows raised. Okay, whatever weird thing you two have going on, it's working. Wednesday almost expressed approval, which is basically a marriage proposal in Adam's terms. Evolutionary psychology suggests humor often masks social discomfort, Wednesday observed clinically. Your deflection through hyperbole is noted. Enid rolled her eyes. And we're back to normal. Anyway, Eugene's looking for you both. Something about crystal harmonization. They found Eugene in Wednesday's secret study, finalizing connections on the now complete sympathetic resonance device. Jericho sat nearby, his form noticeably more solid, working through complex calculations. Harry. Eugene jumped up excitedly. Perfect timing. We're ready to install the activation key. The device looked like nothing Harry had seen before, a blend of century-old components from Blackwood's lab and modern technology Eugene had added. A circular array of crystals surrounded a central platform where the activation key would fit, connected to what appeared to be modified computer equipment. The basic principle is quantum entanglement across dimensional barriers, Eugene explained, carefully fitting the key crystal into its housing. During alignment periods, particles that were once connected can briefly resonate across dimensions. Like tuning forks, Jericho added. Strike one, and another at the right frequency will vibrate in response, even without direct contact. How do we target my specific dimension? Harry asked. There must be countless realities. That's where your personal connection helps, Eugene said. Your magical core still resonates with your native dimension's frequency. The device uses that as a targeting mechanism, like dialing a specific number instead of calling randomly. What can actually be transmitted? Harry wondered. Blackwood's journals weren't specific. Limited information, Wednesday explained. Sensory impressions, brief images, short messages. Not physical matter or continuous communication. Think of it like sending a dimensional text message with limited characters, Eugene suggested. Harry nodded thoughtfully. That might be enough. If I could show them what really happened, or learn who framed me. We should begin preliminary calibration, Wednesday decided. The equinox begins tomorrow at sundown, giving us a limited window to perfect the resonance frequency. As they worked late into the night, Harry felt both excitement and trepidation building. The chance to contact his home dimension represented hope, but also potential disappointment. What if no one received his message? What if they received it but didn't believe him? What if he learned the truth but could do nothing about it from another dimension? Wednesday seemed to sense his concerns. As Eugene and Jericho focused on technical adjustments, she moved to stand beside him. Apprehension is rational when outcomes cannot be predicted, she said quietly. But inaction guarantees failure. Harry smiled slightly. That's almost encouraging. It's logical analysis, she corrected, though her tone lacked its usual sharpness. Your determination has proven effective thus far. Statistical patterns suggest continued persistence increases success probability. Thanks, Wednesday, Harry said sincerely. For everything. I couldn't have done any of this without you. She studied him for a moment, her dark eyes revealing a complexity rarely visible beneath her stoic exterior. Our alliance has proven unexpectedly comprehensive in its mutual benefits. From Wednesday, this was practically a declaration of friendship. Harry smiled, recognizing the significance. Crystal alignment complete. Eugene announced, breaking the moment. We're ready for initial power testing. They gathered around as Eugene initiated the startup sequence. The crystalline array began to glow softly, pulsing with inner light as energy flowed through the system. The activation key in the center shimmered with unearthly radiance, responding to the power surge. Initial harmonic stable, Jericho reported, monitoring readings. No dimensional distortion detected. A successful first test, Wednesday noted with satisfaction. We'll proceed with frequency calibration tomorrow as the equinox alignment begins. As they shut down the device for the night, Harry felt a sense of accomplishment. Against all odds, dimensional crossing, the Void Walker, Thornhill's schemes, they were on the verge of establishing contact with his home world. Whatever came next, he was no longer facing it alone. In Wednesday Adams, he'd found an unlikely but steadfast ally. In Nevermore Academy, he'd found a new home where being different wasn't just accepted but celebrated. For the first time since fleeing Hogwarts, Harry Potter dared to hope that the future might hold more than just survival. Chapter 3, When Worlds Collide. The equinox arrived with an unseasonable storm. Lightning split the sky above Nevermore Academy as Harry, Wednesday, Eugene, and Jericho made final adjustments to the sympathetic resonance device. They'd relocated their operation to the ritual circle where Harry had first arrived. The dimensional bruise there would strengthen their chances of successful contact. Readings are off the charts, Eugene announced, rainwater dripping from his glasses as he monitored equipment under a hastily conjured shelter. The storm is actually enhancing the dimensional alignment. Nature has an irritating tendency toward dramatic timing, Wednesday observed, securing the crystalline array against gusting wind. Her black hair whipped around her face, but her expression remained impassively focused. Harry knelt at the center of the device, placing the activation key into its final position. The crystal pulsed with blue-white energy that matched the lightning overhead, creating an eerie synchronicity between their experiment and the raging storm. Ready for initial contact sequence, he called over the wind. Jericho, now nearly fully corporeal after his recovery, made final calculations on a rain-spattered notebook. Dimensional frequency locked on Harry's native signature. We'll have approximately 47 seconds of contact if everything works perfectly. And if it doesn't? Eugene asked nervously. Anything from complete failure to catastrophic dimensional collapse, Wednesday replied matter-of-factly. Though the latter has only a 3.7% probability. Those odds are, actually worse than I expected, Eugene muttered. Harry took a deep breath, focusing on what awaited rather than what could go wrong. After days of preparation, they were finally ready. The device would allow him brief contact with the wizarding world, perhaps enough to discover who framed him, or at least let his friends know he was alive. Initiating power sequence, Wednesday announced, activating the primary controls. The crystalline array hummed to life, individual crystals beginning to rotate around the central platform where Harry knelt with the activation key. Sympathetic vibration detected, Jericho confirmed, watching energy readings spike on his instruments. Dimensional resonance building. Harry closed his eyes, concentrating on Hogwarts, the Great Hall, the Gryffindor Common Room, his friends. The activation key grew warm in his hands, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Resonance at 60%, Eugene called. 70, 80. A high-pitched whine cut through the storm's rumble as the rotating crystals accelerated, leaving trails of blue light in their wake. The space above the central platform began to shimmer, air folding in on itself like fabric being pinched from another side. 95%, Eugene's voice was tight with tension. Dimensional contact in 3, 2, 1. Reality split open. Not a tear or physical opening, but a window, a shimmering, translucent view into another world. Harry gasped as familiar images materialized in the dimensional viewport, Hogwarts Castle, its towers silhouetted against a twilight sky. It worked, he breathed. Incredible, Wednesday murmured, genuine awe briefly cracking her stoic facade. A stable observational portal without breaching dimensional integrity. 39 seconds remaining, Jericho warned. The connection is one-way visual only. They can't see or hear us. Harry leaned forward, drinking in the sight of his former home. The viewport showed the castle grounds, then shifted, responding to Harry's thoughts, moving inside to corridors he knew by heart. Students in familiar black robes walked past, unaware they were being observed across dimensional boundaries. Can we control where we're looking? Harry asked urgently. Your connection guides it, Wednesday explained. Focus on what you need to see. Harry concentrated on finding answers. The scene shifted rapidly, flashing through locations, the headmaster's office, classrooms, finally settling on the Great Hall during dinner. He searched the Gryffindor table, heart leaping when he spotted familiar faces. Ron and Hermione, he whispered. His friends sat together, but something was wrong. Their expressions were somber, faces drawn with worry. Around them, other students kept a noticeable distance, occasionally casting wary glances their way. They're isolated, Harry realized. Because they were my friends. 20 seconds, Jericho called. The viewport shifted again, moving to the staff table where Dumbledore sat in conversation with a wizard Harry didn't recognize, a severe-looking man in ministry robes. Parchments were spread between them, one bearing what looked like Harry's photograph. Can we hear anything? Harry asked desperately. Boosting audio resonance, Eugene adjusted controls. It'll be fragmented at best. Static-filled sound emerged, words cutting in and out, still no sign of Potter, dimensional magic, witnesses claim, evidence points to, dark artifact activated during. 10 seconds, Jericho warned. Harry focused harder, willing the viewport to show him what happened that night, the incident he was accused of. The scene changed abruptly, showing the Great Hall in chaos. Bodies on the floor, magical damage to the walls, signs of a vicious battle. Ministry officials examining a strange object on the floor, a black box carved with runes, radiating dark magic. Matches Potter's magical signature, impossible to fake, working theory is attempted resurrection ritual, dark magic consistent with Voldemort connection. 5 seconds. The viewport shifted one final time, responding to Harry's desperate need to know who was behind it. A figure in the shadows watching the investigation, partially obscured but vaguely familiar. As they turned slightly toward the dimensional window, Harry caught a glimpse of pale blonde hair and a satisfied smirk. Malfoy, Harry hissed. The portal collapsed with a sound like thunder, the crystalline array slowing to a stop. Rain poured down around them as they stared at the empty space where another world had been visible moments before. Connection terminated, Eugene confirmed unnecessarily. Dimensional window closed. Harry remained kneeling, mind racing with what he'd seen. Draco Malfoy. He framed me somehow. Used a dark artifact to make it look like I was performing a resurrection ritual for Voldemort. You recognize the person responsible? Wednesday asked, already taking notes. A classmate. His father's a Death Eater, one of Voldemort's followers. Harry stood shakily. They must have found a way to duplicate my magical signature on that artifact. Possible, Wednesday nodded. With sufficient samples of your previous spell work and the right catalyzing agent. But why? Eugene asked. What would they gain by framing you? Eliminating a threat, Harry said grimly. With me gone, discredited as a dark wizard myself, no one would believe my warnings about Voldemort's return. They began packing up the equipment as the storm continued around them. Harry's mind kept replaying those brief glimpses of home, Hogwarts standing strong, his friends alive but suffering, Malfoy lurking in the shadows of his crime. We need to try again during the blue moon, he said firmly. Not just to observe, but to send a message. Warn Dumbledore about the frame-up. The equipment requires 24 hours to recharge, Wednesday replied. But theoretically, the blue moon alignment would allow limited two-way communication. As they secured the last components, a figure emerged from the forest edge, running toward them through the rain. It was Enid, soaked and breathless. There you are, she gasped. I've been looking everywhere. Principal Weems called an emergency assembly. They found Professor Thornhill's body. Harry froze. What? How? She was in custody. That's the thing, Enid's eyes were wide. She escaped somehow, then they found her near the old cemetery. But she's wrong. Like, really wrong. Define wrong, Wednesday demanded. Parts missing, Enid shuddered. Like something was extracted from her. And there's weird magic all over campus. Students getting sick, shadows moving on their own. Harry and Wednesday exchanged alarmed glances. The resonance device, Wednesday said quietly. Opening even an observational window may have created enough dimensional disturbance to. To what? Eugene asked nervously. To allow something through, Harry finished, a cold certainty settling in his stomach. Not physically, but energetically. Like Jericho after the Voidwalker attack. We need to get back to the main building, Jericho said, gathering the last of their equipment. They hurried through the storm, Enid filling them in on the chaos unfolding across campus. Several students had collapsed with mysterious magical ailments. Strange shadows had been seen moving independently in corridors. And most concerning, the magical defenses around Nevermore were fluctuating wildly. In the Great Hall, they found most of the student body already assembled. Principal Weems stood at the front, her usual composed demeanor replaced with tense alertness. Faculty members positioned themselves around the hall, wands and various magical implements at ready. Remain calm and stay together, Principal Weems was saying. All students will sleep in the Great Hall tonight while we investigate these disturbances. Professor Xavier is leading containment efforts, and additional Outcast Authority agents have been summoned. She spotted their group entering and beckoned them forward. As they approached, Harry noticed magical sensors arrayed around the hall, similar to dark detectors he'd seen in the wizarding world. Miss Adams, Mr. Potter, Principal Weems greeted them tersely. Your expertise is required. I believe these incidents are connected to dimensional instabilities. We opened a limited observational window, Wednesday admitted without preamble. No physical breach, but energy transfer may have occurred. Principal Weems' expression tightened. When were you planning to inform me of this operation? After confirming successful results, Wednesday replied unapologetically. Preliminary tests indicated minimal risk. Yet here we are, Principal Weems said with forced calm. Facing what appears to be another dimensional incursion. Harry stepped forward. This is different from the Voidwalker. More targeted. Explain, Principal Weems demanded. The disturbances center around individuals with strong magical abilities. Professor Xavier joined them, consulting a tablet displaying a map of Nevermore with incident markers. The affected students are all from particularly powerful outcast lineages. It's feeding on magical energy, Harry realized. Growing stronger. A commotion at the hall's entrance interrupted them. 2 security staff entered, supporting Ajax between them. The psychic student was pale and trembling, eyes rolled back showing only whites. He collapsed outside the divination tower, one guard reported. Started speaking in a strange voice. Ajax's body suddenly went rigid. When he spoke, it was in a high, cold voice Harry recognized with horror. The boy who lived, living still, in a world not his own. Ajax's head turned unnaturally toward Harry. I feel you, Harry Potter. Across dimensions, our connection remains. Ice flooded Harry's veins. That voice. Impossible, yet unmistakable. Voldemort, he whispered. Wednesday glanced at him sharply. The dark wizard from your dimension? Not exactly, Harry said, mind racing. When I crossed dimensions, I didn't come through completely clean. There's always been a connection between us. Part of him attached to me when he tried to kill me as a baby. A parasitic magical bond, Wednesday deduced. Which transferred dimensional energy when you crossed over. Ajax's body slumped momentarily, then straightened again, eyes still showing only whites. I am but an echo, a shadow cast across the void. But shadows can grow in darkness, feeding on fear and magic. It's not physically here, Harry explained urgently to Principal Weems. Just a magical fragment, an echo of Voldemort created during my crossing. But it's gaining strength by absorbing magical energy. How do we contain it? Principal Weems asked. Before Harry could answer, the great hall plunged into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, casting eerie shadows that moved unnaturally across walls and floor. Students cried out in alarm as the shadows stretched toward them, touching those nearest and causing them to collapse. Lumos Maxima. Harry shouted, his wand producing a brilliant light that pushed the animated shadows back temporarily. Wednesday pulled strange devices from her bag, activating several that created barriers of blue light. Dimensional energy dampeners, she explained. Prototype design based on Blackwood's research. Faculty members rallied, creating protective circles around groups of students. Professor Xavier led witch-light globes to hover throughout the hall, keeping the worst of the shadows at bay. Ajax suddenly screamed, his body arching unnaturally. Black mist poured from his mouth and eyes, coalescing in the center of the hall into a vaguely humanoid shape, tall, skeletal, with glowing red eyes and a face more serpentine than human. The echo, Harry said grimly. It's manifesting. The shadowy apparition grew more substantial as it absorbed ambient magical energy from the hall. Its laughter, high, cold, terrible, filled the air, sending shivers through everyone present. Harry Potter, it hissed. How convenient you've delivered yourself to me in a world where none know my power. This dimension will provide the energy I need to fully regenerate. Harry stepped forward, wand raised. You're not Voldemort. Just a fragment, an echo without real power. Power grows, the echo replied. This school is rich with magical energy, different from our world but potent. And I've already found a suitable vessel. The main doors burst open. Professor Thornhill's body stood there, or what remained of it. Her form had been altered horribly, skin waxy and stretched over 2 sharp bones, eyes glowing the same red as the echoes, movements jerky like a puppet controlled by unskilled hands. No, Principal Weems breathed. Selena. This shell serves for now, Thornhill's mouth moved, Voldemort's voice emerging. Though I'll need a stronger one eventually. Yours, perhaps, Harry Potter. Evacuation protocol, Principal Weems ordered, her voice cutting through the rising panic. All students follow faculty escorts to the secure bunkers. Now. As teachers began organizing the evacuation, Harry turned to Wednesday. We can't just run. That thing will only get stronger, absorbing magic from the school itself. Agreed, she replied, already calculating. Conventional containment won't work against a dimensional echo. We need to destabilize its energy matrix. Like we did with the Void Walker? Harry asked. Similar principle, different execution. The Void Walker was an external entity. This echo originated from you, it's tied to your dimensional signature. Understanding dawned. So I'm the key to stopping it. Theoretically, Wednesday conceded. Though the process would be exceptionally dangerous. Harry almost smiled. When isn't it? Principal Weems approached as students streamed toward emergency exits. Whatever you're planning, make it quick. That thing is already affecting Nevermore's defensive wards. Around them, the ancient magical protections of the school were becoming visible as they destabilized, glowing lines in walls and floor flickering like failing electronics. We need the resonance device, Harry decided. If the echo used our dimensional window to manifest, we might be able to reverse the process, send it back. Or at least disrupt its ability to maintain cohesion in this dimension, Wednesday added. Eugene, Jericho, already on it, Eugene called, hauling equipment from where they'd stashed it. But the device needs time to recharge. Time we don't have, Harry said, watching as the possessed Thornhill advanced into the hall, shadows swirling around her like living tendrils. Students screamed and ran as shadow tentacles grabbed at them, draining magical energy on contact. Faculty members fought back with various abilities. Professor Anubis transformed into a jackal-headed warrior, slashing at shadows with glowing blades. Professor Xavier projected psychic shields around fleeing students. We need to slow it down, Harry decided. Buy time for the device to recharge. Conventional magic seems minimally effective, Wednesday observed as several spells from faculty simply passed through the echo. But my magic might work, Harry realized. We're connected. My spells should affect it directly. Wednesday nodded. I'll help Eugene accelerate the resonator's recharge. You contain the echo. As Wednesday hurried toward Eugene and the equipment, Harry stepped forward to face the monstrosity wearing Thornhill's body. Around him, chaos reigned, students fleeing, faculty fighting losing battles against ever-multiplying shadows, the very air thick with malevolent energy. You're not supposed to be here, Harry called to the echo. This isn't your world to destroy. Thornhill's head tilted at an impossible angle, her smile stretching inhumanly wide. Neither is it yours, Harry Potter. Yet here you stand, a dimensional trespasser yourself. I didn't come to hurt anyone, Harry replied, circling to draw the echo away from evacuating students. You're nothing but a parasite. I am Lord Voldemort, the echo roared, Thornhill's body contorting as shadows erupted from it. In any dimension. The shadow tendrils shot toward Harry, who slashed his wand through the air. Sectum Sempra. The spell, one he'd learned from the Half-Blood Prince's book and had been reluctant to use again, cut through the shadow tendrils like physical matter. The echo shrieked, momentarily stunned that its form could be damaged. Interesting, Harry muttered. Dark magic affects it directly. He pressed his advantage. Incendio. Blue flames erupted from his wand, encircling the possessed Thornhill and the shadowy mass connected to her. The echo howled as the flames disrupted its form, but quickly adapted, absorbing the magical fire itself and growing larger. Foolish boy, it hissed. Your magic only feeds me in the end. Across the hall, Harry spotted Wednesday working feverishly with Eugene on the resonator. They needed more time. Hey, a voice called from behind Harry. Enid stood there, eyes glowing yellow as her werewolf nature emerged. Need some help? Before Harry could respond, Enid charged forward, transforming mid-leap into her werewolf form, larger and more colorful than any werewolf Harry had seen in his dimension. Her claws raked through shadow tendrils, causing them to dissipate temporarily. Physical attacks work, she called, voice deeper in wolf form. It's vulnerable to non-magical combat. This revelation spread quickly. Around the hall, students with physical abilities joined the fight, werewolves clawing through shadows, vampires using supernatural speed to evacuate younger students, gorgons petrifying shadow tendrils with their gaze. Wednesday. Harry called across the chaos. Physical attacks slow it down. Magic just makes it stronger. She nodded understanding, immediately adjusting their approach. Eugene, disconnect the magical power source. Convert to purely electrical. As the battle continued, more students rallied instead of fleeing. Bianca Barkley, the Siren, used her voice to create sonic disruptions that temporarily scattered shadow manifestations. Ajax, recovered from his possession, coordinated psychic students in creating mental barriers the echo couldn't penetrate. Harry fought his way toward Wednesday, combining magical and physical defenses. The resonator? 17 minutes to minimum functional charge, she reported. We need to keep the echo contained until then. It's using Thornhill as an anchor, Harry observed. If we separate them, the echo would be temporarily destabilized, Wednesday finished. But the process could kill Thornhill. Harry grimaced. Is she even still alive in there? Unclear. The possession appears complete, but dimensional echoes typically can't maintain full control without some consciousness remaining. A scream drew their attention. The echo had cornered several younger students, shadow tendrils wrapping around them as it drained their magical energy. Harry and Wednesday moved simultaneously, Harry casting a shield charm while Wednesday deployed another of her devices, creating a barrier of blue light. We need a better plan than just holding it off, Harry panted. It's getting stronger despite our efforts. Wednesday's eyes narrowed in thought. The echo originated from your connection to Voldemort. That connection must be the key. You think I should let it possess me instead? Harry asked incredulously. No, Wednesday replied. I think you should use the connection to trap it. She quickly outlined a modified plan, using Harry's unique dimensional signature as bait while reconfiguring the resonator to create not a window but a trap. Like a dimensional bottle, she explained. Containing the echo in a pocket between realities. That could work, Harry nodded. But we'd need to draw it away from everyone else first. The ritual circle, Wednesday decided. Where dimensional energies naturally concentrate. If we can lure it there, it'll follow me, Harry said with certainty. Our connection ensures that. They quickly gathered their core group, Eugene, Jericho, Enid, and several other students with useful abilities. Principal Weems coordinated with faculty to continue evacuation while creating a diversion to cover their exit. I'll hold it here as long as possible, Principal Weems promised, her own considerable magical abilities creating barriers around the Great Hall. But hurry. Nevermore's defenses are failing systematically. As their group prepared to move, the echo sensed something amiss. Thornhill's head snapped toward Harry, red eyes blazing. Running again, Potter, it hissed. Always fleeing rather than facing your destiny. Actually, Harry called back, I'm giving you a proper invitation. If it's me you want, come and get me. He sent a deliberate pulse of magic, like lighting a beacon, through their connection. The echo reacted instantly, shadowy mass surging toward him. Now! Harry shouted. Their group bolted from the hall, racing through corridors as the echo pursued, shadows flowing along walls and ceiling like liquid darkness. Outside, the storm had intensified, lightning illuminating their path across the grounds toward the ritual circle. Set up there. Harry directed Eugene and Jericho, pointing to the circle's edge where the resonator would have maximum effectiveness. Wednesday and I will keep it occupied. Don't die, Wednesday told him flatly. It would complicate the procedure unnecessarily. Harry couldn't help laughing despite the danger. I'll do my best. The echo burst from the building behind them, growing larger as it approached the dimensionally weak point of the ritual circle. Thornhill's body moved at its center like a grotesque marionette, limbs bending at impossible angles. I sense it, the echo hissed, voice booming unnaturally. The thin place between worlds. You've led me exactly where I needed to be, Harry Potter. That was the idea, Harry muttered, positioning himself at the circle's center. Around the perimeter, their allies worked frantically, Eugene and Jericho reconfiguring the resonator while Enid and other students created a defensive perimeter against the shadow tendrils probing toward them. Ready? Harry called to Wednesday, who stood at a critical junction point with the activation key in hand. She nodded once, expression determined despite rain plastering her black hair to her pale face. Hey, Riddle! Harry shouted, deliberately using Voldemort's hated birth name. You're not even the real thing. Just a copy, a shadow of a half-blood wizard who couldn't even kill a baby. The echo roared in fury, shadow mass surging toward Harry. As it reached the edge of the ritual circle, Wednesday activated her device while Eugene and Jericho powered up the resonator. Blue energy crackled around the perimeter, forming a dome of light. Dimensional containment active. Eugene shouted over the storm. But it's fighting the field. The echo thrashed against the energy barrier, shadows probing for weaknesses. Thornhill's body convulsed at its center, mouth open in a silent scream as the possessing entity fought to break free. It's too strong. Jericho warned. The containment field is destabilizing. Harry knew what he had to do. Moving to the center of the circle, directly facing the echo, he raised his wand. Legilimens. Instead of attacking physically, he established a mental connection, inverting the link Voldemort had always used against him. Through this connection, Harry could sense the echo's essence, rage, hunger, but beneath it all, fear. Fear of death, of dissolution, of the very nothingness it had emerged from. Now, Wednesday. Harry called, maintaining the mental link while drawing the echo's attention fully to himself. Wednesday activated the final sequence on the resonator. The crystalline array spun rapidly, energy building as the activation key pulsed with dimensional power. But instead of opening a window outward, the device created an inward-facing vortex, a dimensional sink pulling the echo toward it. No, the echo shrieked, realizing the trap. I will not be contained. It fought viciously, shadow tendrils lashing out at the equipment. One struck Eugene, sending him flying back. Another wrapped around the primary crystal, threatening to shatter it. Physical defense. Harry shouted to their allies. Protect the resonator. Enid and the other students formed a ring around the equipment, fighting off shadow tentacles with claws, fangs, and various physical abilities. Jericho, his own experience with dimensional energy giving him unique insight, adjusted controls to strengthen the containment field. But the echo was adapting, learning. It began to withdraw its essence from Thornhill's body, consolidating into a more concentrated form that could potentially escape the trap. It's abandoning its host. Wednesday called. Without a physical anchor, the containment will fail. Harry made a split-second decision. I'll be the anchor. Potter, don't, Wednesday started, but Harry was already moving. Accio Echo. He shouted, a variation of the summoning charm he'd never attempted before. Through their mental link, he seized the core of the echo's essence and pulled. The shadow mass jerked toward him, partially separating from Thornhill, who collapsed to the ground. As the echo's essence touched Harry, pain erupted through his body, like the Cruciatus curse but deeper, reaching into his very soul. Now, he gasped through the agony. Complete the trap. Wednesday didn't hesitate. She recalibrated the resonator, focusing its energy not on creating a separate containment but on Harry himself, using his dimensional hybrid nature as part of the trap mechanism. Everyone back, she ordered as the crystalline array spun faster, glowing blindingly bright. Harry felt the echo writhing within him, fighting to take control. Memories flashed through his mind, not just his own but fragments of Voldemort's life, distorted through the dimensional crossing. He struggled to maintain his sense of self against the invasion. Expecto Patronum, he managed to call, focusing on his strongest positive emotions. The silver stag erupted not from his wand but from his chest, manifesting internally to combat the darkness trying to consume him from within. Light and shadow battled inside Harry's very being, visible through his skin which had begun to glow with an unearthly radiance. Wednesday activated the final sequence. The resonator reached maximum power, creating a dimensional pocket, not in either Harry's home dimension or Nevermore's reality, but in the space between. A void where the echo could be trapped. "Pull it out of me." Harry gasped, feeling himself being torn apart from inside. "Use the resonator." Wednesday aimed the primary crystal directly at Harry. Energy surged between them, creating a connection that yanked at the echo. Harry screamed as the shadow essence was forcibly extracted from his body, pulled toward the resonator's dimensional pocket. "Hold it steady." Jericho called to Eugene, both working frantically to maintain the delicate energy balance. The echo fought desperately, its shadowy form stretching between Harry and the resonator like taffy being pulled apart. Its screams, inhuman, filled with rage and terror, echoed across the ritual grounds. "It's working!" Enid shouted. "Keep going." With a final, wrenching pull, the echo tore free from Harry. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, as the shadow mass was drawn inexorably into the glowing crystal at the resonator's center. The activation key flared with blinding light as it sealed the dimensional pocket, trapping the echo in eternal suspension between realities. Silence fell across the ritual circle, broken only by the ongoing storm and their collective ragged breathing. The resonator hummed softly, the activation key now glowing with a continuous, steady light, containing its dimensional prisoner. "Containment successful," Wednesday announced, checking readings. "The echo is secure within a self-sustaining dimensional pocket." Harry remained kneeling, exhausted but intact. The brief possession had left him shaken but, surprisingly, clear-headed. It was as if extracting the echo had removed not just Voldemort's current fragment, but residual darkness from his original connection. "You okay?" Enid asked, helping him to his feet. "Better than expected, actually," Harry replied honestly. "Like something that was always there is finally gone." Wednesday approached, studying him clinically. "The extraction process appears to have severed your dimensional connection to Voldemort completely. An unexpected benefit. Professor Thornhill?" Harry asked, looking to where she had fallen. Jericho knelt beside her still form. "Alive, but barely. The possession damaged her severely." As if summoned by his assessment, Principal Weems arrived with medical staff and security teams. The storm was finally abating, clouds parting to reveal stars above Nevermore. The shadow manifestations in the school disappeared suddenly, Principal Weems reported. "I assume that means you were successful." Wednesday gestured to the resonator and its glowing key. "The echo has been contained in a dimensional pocket. It can neither return to Potter's dimension nor manifest in ours." Medical staff attended to Thornhill and other injured students. Principal Weems surveyed the scene with a mixture of relief and concern. "The damage to Nevermore's wards is substantial," she noted. "But reparable. More concerning is what we've learned about the vulnerability of dimensional boundaries." "The blue moon is tomorrow night," Harry said suddenly, remembering their original plan. "We could still attempt communication with my dimension. Warn them about Malfoy and the frame-up." Principal Weems considered this. "After what just happened, creating another dimensional window seems inadvisable." "The resonator is already configured," Wednesday pointed out. "With the echo contained inside, it actually stabilizes the connection rather than endangering it. The probability of further incursion is negligible. And it might be our only chance to prevent something worse happening in my home dimension," Harry added. Principal Weems looked between them, then at the contained resonator with its dimensional prisoner. "Very well. One final attempt during the blue moon. But with full faculty oversight and maximum security protocols." The following day was spent in recovery and preparation. Nevermore slowly returned to normal as magical wards were repaired and affected students healed. The Echo's containment crystal was secured in a specially designed chamber, monitored constantly for any signs of deterioration. Harry found himself something of a hero, again. Students who had witnessed his confrontation with the Echo spread the story throughout the school. Even Bianca Barkley seemed genuinely impressed rather than simply seeing social opportunity. "You really are full of surprises, Harry Potter," she told him during lunch. "Dimensional traveler, Echo Hunter. I misjudged you." "We all misjudge people sometimes," Harry replied, thinking of his own dimension and the friends who believed him capable of murder. By evening, preparations for their final dimensional contact were complete. The resonator had been moved to a secure laboratory under the supervision of Principal Weems and Professor Xavier. Additional containment measures surrounded the equipment, and only essential personnel were allowed to participate. "The blue moon rises in 22 minutes, Wednesday reported, checking final calculations with Jericho. "Dimensional alignment will reach optimal conditions 7 minutes after moonrise." Harry nervously adjusted the communication module they'd added to the resonator, a device designed to transmit a message through the dimensional window. They would have only moments to send what they'd prepared, evidence of Malfoy's involvement in the frame-up, including magical analysis of the dimensional echo proving its connection to the dark artifact used against Harry. "Are you certain this is what you want?" Wednesday asked him privately as the others made final adjustments. "Once sent, you cannot take it back." Harry nodded. "They need to know the truth. Even if I can never return physically, I can't let Malfoy get away with what he did. And..." He hesitated, "I need Ron and Hermione to know I didn't betray them." Wednesday studied him with her penetrating gaze. "Your attachment to your previous dimension is understandable. But remember that your future exists here now." "I know," Harry said softly. "And I'm actually okay with that. Nevermore has become home in ways I didn't expect." Something subtle shifted in Wednesday's expression, not quite a smile, but perhaps its closest approximation. "Your adaptation metrics exceed predicted parameters." From Wednesday, this was high praise indeed. "Blue moon visible," Eugene announced. Beginning final sequence. The resonator hummed to life, crystalline arrays spinning as energy built in the system. The activation key, still containing the trapped echo, pulsed with blue-white light, its dimensional prisoner adding power to the connection rather than fighting it. "Dimensional window forming," Jericho reported. "More stable than previous attempt." Above the resonator, space folded inward, creating the now familiar shimmering viewport. Images from Hogwarts appeared, the headmaster's office, where Dumbledore sat at his desk reviewing documents with McGonagall. "Audio connection established," Eugene confirmed. "They can hear us if we transmit now." Harry took a deep breath. "Ready to transmit." Wednesday activated the communication module. "Sending in 3, 2, 1. A pulse of energy shot through the dimensional window, carrying their carefully prepared message, evidence of Malfoy's involvement, magical signatures proving tampering, and a brief personal message from Harry explaining what had happened. On the other side, Dumbledore and McGonagall looked up in shock as magical energy manifested in the office. Documents appeared on the desk before them, materialized across dimensions. McGonagall reached for them cautiously while Dumbledore stood, eyes searching the room as if sensing the dimensional window. "Professor Dumbledore," Harry said, unsure if his voice would carry through. The old wizard froze, turning slowly toward the invisible viewport. "Harry," he whispered. "Is that you?" "He can hear you," Eugene confirmed excitedly. "The connection is working." "Yes, Professor," Harry said, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "I don't have much time. The evidence I sent proves I was framed. Malfoy used a dark artifact to duplicate my magical signature." "Where are you, my boy?" Dumbledore asked, peering into seemingly empty space. "We've searched everywhere." "Another dimension," Harry explained quickly. "I used experimental magic to escape, it was the only way. I can't come back physically, but I had to clear my name." McGonagall was reviewing the documents, her expression shifting from skepticism to shock. Albus, these magical signatures, the analysis is conclusive. Potter couldn't have performed the ritual. Dumbledore nodded gravely. We suspected as much, but the evidence against you was overwhelming, Harry. These documents provide what we needed to reopen the investigation. Tell Ron and Hermione I'm okay, Harry said urgently as the dimensional window began to flicker. Tell them I'm sorry, and that I never betrayed them. I will, Harry, Dumbledore promised. And we will bring those responsible to justice. Connection destabilizing, Jericho warned. 30 seconds remaining. Harry had one last question. Professor, the artifact they used, was it connected to Voldemort? Dumbledore's expression confirmed his fears. Yes. We believe it contained a fragment of his consciousness, similar to a Horcrux, but designed to transfer rather than preserve. That explains the echo, Wednesday murmured beside Harry. Harry, are you safe where you are? Dumbledore asked, concern evident in his voice. Harry glanced at Wednesday, at the friends he'd made at Nevermore. Yes, Professor. I found somewhere I belong. We're losing the connection, Eugene announced. 10 seconds. Goodbye, Professor, Harry said. Take care of them for me. We will always remember you, Harry, Dumbledore replied, a sad smile on his face. And it seems you have found what many search for their whole lives, a true home. The dimensional window collapsed, reality sealing once more between worlds. For a moment, no one spoke, the weight of the final farewell hanging in the air. Transmission confirmed successful, Eugene finally reported. They received everything we sent. It's over, then, Harry said quietly. They know the truth. Wednesday placed a hand briefly on his shoulder, a rare gesture of physical comfort from her. Not over. Simply transitioning to the next logical phase. Harry smiled at her uniquely Wednesday way of saying things would be okay. Principal Weems approached, having witnessed the exchange. Mr. Potter, I believe it's time we discussed your permanent arrangements at Nevermore Academy. Weeks later, as spring fully embraced Nevermore Academy, Harry sat beneath an ancient oak tree overlooking the campus. The dimensional resonator had been permanently deactivated and secured in Nevermore's vault, the echo still trapped within its crystal prison. Professor Thornhill had survived but remained in an outcast medical facility, her mind damaged by the possession. Most importantly, Harry had received confirmation through Ajax's dimensional visions that his message had been received and acted upon. Draco Malfoy and his father had been arrested, the dark artifact confiscated, and Harry's name cleared in the wizarding world. Contemplating metaphysical constants again? Wednesday asked, approaching with her ever-present notebook. Just thinking about how much has changed, Harry replied. A few months ago, I was on the run, desperate, with nowhere to go. And now you're Nevermore's first officially registered dimensional refugee student, Wednesday noted, sitting beside him. With specialized curriculum and legal identity documents. Harry smiled. Thanks to you. Your alliance made all the difference. Wednesday considered this. The association has proven mutually beneficial beyond initial projections. Is that Wednesday speak for, I value our friendship? Harry teased gently. She raised an eyebrow. Value implies emotional investment. I merely acknowledge statistical improvements in both our circumstances through cooperative effort. Right, Harry nodded, hiding his smile. Purely rational assessment. Below them, students crossed the grounds between classes. Enid waved enthusiastically from the path, her rainbow hair visible even at a distance. Jericho, now fully corporeal, walked with Ajax, both recovered from their ordeal. Eugene hurried past with arms full of equipment for his next dimensional science project, now a legitimate, supervised course of study. Principal Weems approved our independent study proposal, Wednesday informed him, opening her notebook. Comparative magical methodologies, wizarding techniques adapted to outcast frameworks. So I can officially teach you wizard magic while you teach me outcast abilities, Harry translated. Should be interesting. Particularly the wandless adaptation experiments, Wednesday agreed. Your magical core's hybrid dimensional state creates unique research opportunities. Harry laughed. Only you could make learning magic sound like a scientific experiment. That's precisely what it is, Wednesday replied, though Harry detected the faintest hint of amusement in her tone. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched clouds pass overhead. Harry's thoughts drifted briefly to his original dimension, to Ron and Hermione, to Hogwarts, to the life he'd left behind. There was sadness there, but no longer the sharp pain of loss. He had found something unexpected at Nevermore, not just sanctuary, but belonging. Wednesday, he said suddenly. Thank you. Not just for the help with dimensional travel and fighting the echo. For seeing me as more than just an anomaly to study. She looked at him directly, dark eyes serious. You were never merely an anomaly, Harry Potter. You were always a statistically significant variable. Coming from Wednesday, this was practically a declaration of friendship. Harry smiled, understanding the meaning behind her clinical phrasing. Ready for advanced potions? He asked, standing and offering her a hand up. Wednesday ignored his hand and rose gracefully on her own. Professor Xavier remains unconvinced that your dimension's potion methodology can be adapted to outcast alchemy. Then we'll just have to prove her wrong, Harry said confidently. As they walked toward the ancient castle that had become his new home, Harry felt the weight of his past lightening with each step. The boy who lived had vanished from one world only to find his place in another. And somehow, among fellow outcasts, the strangest thing had happened. Harry Potter had finally found exactly where he belonged. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.